Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and we are going into the oceans of the world tonight with Varla Ventura, looking for sea monsters, the Loch Ness Monster, Mermaid, Kraken, Megalodon, and many, many other spooky creatures that just want to eat you the minute your pinky toe hits the salt water. Yeah, we're going there tonight, and we say, why don't you come with us? Like our audience tonight, race fan in the gold medal position. We have Robert Lamoth taking home the silver with the gorgeous preacher himself, Eric Markham, in the bronze medal. D. Cohen, Stephanie Kenny Blankenship. How you doing? Stephanie will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Hi, Ozzy Sue. Hi, number 16, Lars Jansson. He'll be starting at defense, left defense from Stockholm, Sweden. Donna, how are you? Kathy Evans, Laura Lobbs, National Memorial. Good to see you all. Dino Bravo, nice to have you back. Daryl Zerline, thanks for coming on in. Hi, Sundance Kid and Pixie Laura. Dutch Hank, good to have you with us. Monica, thank you for joining us. Hi, Redneck. W. David Page, JSCO, Emmy Tong, _Maddie. Thank you for joining us. Ozzy, oi, oi to you. Oob to Joe's Maine, you've got aliens. Joe will be signing autographs after the show as well. Light up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Kurt M. Dirt Road, good to see you both. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Richard Elmore, Tree Dances, good to have you both here. Richard Elmore, Millennium, my man, good to have you both here as well. Mr. Man, Mr. Triple M, where have you been hiding? Oh, you're back on the graveyard shift, that's why. Jessica and Chris 716, thank you for coming on in. Mr. Cowley, dun, dun, dun. Welcome back to the show. Dun, dun. Oh, Mr. Cowley, dun, dun, dun. Loves his spaced out radio. Chillgasm, Zoria, Pat Toohey, nice to have you here. Derek Galloway, nice to have you back, my man. Tim Mothman, Free Your Mind. Deb from SAC, thank you for joining us. Here we go with more of our roll call. Jen A. and Peppa H., nice to see you both. Hi, Sensational Sherry and Nancy Thames. Carlito, welcome back, my man, and thank you for kicking off this Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you so much. Continuing on with our roll call, Kim and Ari, how are you? And who's our Facebook user? Let me take a look here. We have on Facebook DAY Song and Susan Lawrence. Thank you for joining us. Let's continue on here with, let's see, scrolling on down. Jose, good to see you again. Me Wyken, Abnormal Investigations, welcome back. And let's see who else we got. Flying Monkeys, welcome to SOR chat. Javier from Cryptid 559, good to see you, my man. Sagittarius Dad, Skip to my Lou, my darling, how are you? And there's the gorgeous Kira, Toe Tag. Thank you for joining us, everyone. And we are caught up so far. Yeah, remember, everyone, Derek Galloway has a tail. He has a tail, okay? We're going to start the radio side here. We're going to get Bill WD-40 into the chat room, so that way he can lube us up for tonight's show, because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. That's right. Super Duke! Super Duke! At a high tone there. Super Duke! Super Duke! All right. Oh, God, it's already off the trails. Jessica McCreary, thank you for coming on in. Lightwalkers, good to see you. Michelle from North Carolina. And I think we are so far caught up. All right, we got like 30 seconds. Once again, Super Chat is open. There's Bill WD40. He's lubing it up. We love him around here. And yeah, I don't even know where to go. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, has all of our swag for you. Hi, Mike Bothwell at TMI. Yeah, go to our website, pick up some swag like this goalie t-shirt I got on right here. It's very comfy, very comfy. All right, guys, horns up. Let's rock, shall we? From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. A power show of woo tonight. Varla Ventura, author extraordinaire, is back for Our Cryptid World as we're heading into the ocean this time. Yeah, my favorite. Then in hour number 3, we're going to head to the swamp. Super Duke will be here for the Cryptid Report. I've got the Dave 101. We'll have some strange news of the week as well. Our good friend Varla Ventura is back here tonight for Our Cryptid World. She joins us every month near each end to kind of take us on a little journey of spookiness. I call her the Queen of the Dark Cryptids because that's what she loves, whether it's Dracula, vampires, Pookas, Changelings, Mermaids. She is known as one of the top authors around North America when it comes to high strangeness and the darkness that surrounds it. Her website is varlaventura.net, where you can get her books. She will also be attending our Las Vegas fan party on May 19th through 21st at the Golden Nugget. So if you want to buy books from her there, you can. She will autograph them for you. I love it that she's offered to do that. Varla Ventura, our last meeting on the air before we finally meet face-to-face.
In real life. Oh, my. I'm wonderful. So great to see you. And hello, everyone. Out there in Spaced Out Radio Land.
We've been doing this for 4 years, almost 5 years. Hard to believe.
I can't believe that. Oh.
I know. And yet we're finally going to meet. Finally.
Yeah. That's going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to that so much. I'm looking forward to the whole weekend, the event, the meeting, the Spaced Out Radio listeners, and then other guests that I've listened to myself. It's going to be, but obviously, you're the cherry. You're the cherry on top, Dave.
Yeah, that's what they all say. That's what they all say.
I'm sure you get that all the time.
Yeah, sure. All right. You know what? The one thing I want to say about our Las Vegas event, for those who may unfortunately miss it this year, and for those that are going, and for our future events that we do put on, wherever they may be. Okay, last year was both in Las Vegas. This year will be in Las Vegas as well at the Golden Nugget. But the one thing that I want our audience to know is we do this for you. And this is about you guys, because, and Varla can attest to this, when you go to a conference and you pay like $2,000, $3,000, $400 to go to a weekend conference, rarely do you actually get to meet the people that you want to meet. They're not around, they're not hanging out, they're not, that you may only see them for their speech, and then somehow somewhere they slither out of the room and they disappear for the rest of the weekend. Or if you do see them, they give you the old, hey, I'm just busy right now, can we meet up later? And you never do. The one thing about our event, and Varla and I were talking about this earlier, is we are doing this specifically for the fans. So all of our guests, like Varla, like Merle, like Science Bob, and everybody else who is going to be there, they're there to mingle with you. They're there to hang out with you. If you want to meet up for breakfast, you go, hey, Varla, hey, Dave, let's meet up for breakfast tomorrow. And we're going to meet up with you guys because that's kind of what it's all about. And it's so different. And Varla, I know you're really impressed with that it is about the fans and not just somebody speaking on stage.
Yeah, well, the other aspect of that that's really refreshing is that one of the reasons when you go to conferences and people are, kind of waiting in line to the left of the stage or whatever, to line up and talk to somebody. And then as a presenter, frequently you are actually kept on this really tight schedule too. So you're supposed to go from this thing to this thing, and you're only supposed to speak for this amount of time. And then that's often why you kind of just get rushed on out of there. You do tons of research and prep, you do this talk, and then, you're moving on. And so I think the organic kind of mingling nature of the anti-conference that is the Vegas event really lends itself to that. So from the guest perspective as well, it just allows you to have that time to hang out with all those wonderful weirdos who've been tuning in for all these years.
And you know what? You're absolutely right. And you know what? For us as me as a host in our Spaced Out Radio team, and I know somebody who's been here with longevity, such as you have, Varla, you get to recognize the names in our chat rooms and the people who are emailing you and messaging you about all this, about you being on Spaced Out Radio and everything like that. And we get it too. And the fact that we can now put a face to a name that we've only seen in the chat rooms before is quite special to me.
Yeah, I was seeing it. It'll be funny because some people have like really clever names in the chat. And so I was like, are we going to make people put like name tags of their their chat room names so we can identify them? But yeah, that'll be, it's especially after, I think just the world in general pivoting to doing more things virtually, to be able to actually meet in person and have conversations and, just like generally, sit around and have cocktails and talk about cryptids or whatever it is, like all those kinds of things. It should be a very magical weekend. So looking forward to that. Yeah.
I cannot wait to get there. So we are going to have a great, great time. And hey, for those of you who are all of a sudden still on the fence, but maybe I might not, get your butt to Vegas with us, May 19th through 21st at the Golden Nugget. It's going to be a blast. Varla, you are the queen of the dark cryptids. And you know what? We love it when you are here and talking about all sorts of monsters. Recently, you were in Ireland and Scotland, and in all those land areas on the west coast of
beautiful lands. Yeah.
Hanging out, drinking gin, looking for monsters. How was your trip?
So you're right. I was in Ireland in the beginning of March, and then I was in Scotland in the beginning of April, and both trips were completely fantastic and full of magic of various kinds. That kind of the magic of somewhat unplanned travel and adventures is always the best part of going anywhere. But yeah, it was incredible. Scotland in particular, the weather was just gorgeous. Actually, we were told it's going to rain for sure. Pack an umbrella. And I'm kind of morally opposed to umbrellas. Just a weird side note about me. I can't stand umbrellas. So I didn't pack an umbrella. But my friend did. And so we had sunny weather and just gorgeous, gorgeous weather. Edinburgh is like one of the most, I always say it wrong and everybody there laughs at me, but it's just a gorgeous city, and it's spooky, and there's magpies cawing and cobblestone streets shrouded in fog and a looming castle up on. I mean, it's just absolutely like the perfect setting. And there's all these like hidden passageways and stuff, but that go under the city. There's like a whole sub city that we did go in, and some people might appreciate. The tour guides kind of like take you into this labyrinth. And we had actually, my friend and I had already been in the labyrinth because we found out about this bar called the Banshees Labyrinth. And I was like, obviously we're going there. So we went there, and it's actually underground in one of what were these that was like this underground city. And there's like 4 or 5 bars. It's very easy to get lost in there. But anyway, we also did like a tour, one of the like underground vault tours, and the tour guide was wonderful. But of course, he walks you by quote unquote authentic witch's chamber. And then they take you into this one room where they say, I'll have to get my friend to send it to me because she took it on her phone, but they say, well, there's this stone circle here, and it was put here by this particular head witch trying to kind of work with this entity that was sort of evil there. And anyway, he goes on to say, you're welcome to go in it, but before you do, let me tell you all this stuff. And, people get cursed, etc. And of course, a couple people bravely got in the middle. And then my friend and I, we just waited until everyone left. And the only light in there was kind of like this green light from the hallway. And so she got this fantastic picture of me standing in the middle of the cursed stone circle, just, basically, horns up, just like, yes, made it to the cursed circle underground. All right, I'm in through the portal. Here we go. But there were just all kinds of just amazing little things like that. And part of the reason I wanted to talk a little bit about like sea creatures and stuff tonight is that we did go to Loch Ness, and the day after we visited, I believe we were there on April 4th. On April 5th, there was a sighting on a cam from and actually I know the exact spot. I saw the video footage, and I know the exact spot where that camera is looking because I had just been there the day before. So my friend and I like to say that if anybody's ever read Outlander or seen the Outlander, so there's a whole scene where the woman who goes back in time is kind of witchy, and she shows up at Loch Ness back in the 1600s, and the monster appears, and then everybody thinks she conjured the monster. So my friend and I, of course, were saying that she and I conjured the monster. We were just, missed it by a day. It was looking for us.
Don't you hate that when it's always missed by a day?
I mean, to be fair, we weren't like, if you really want to have an experience where you might actually see it, you really have to dedicate a day or even longer, and go on a more extensive private boat, because the loch is very long and skinny. So we did a little bit more of a cursory cruise through on a ship, and then exploring the castle ruins. But if no one's seen it, there's footage, and it's recently been enhanced, so you can kind of see what the webcam caught. But apparently the story is that there's a guy in Belfast, actually, who regularly checks out various webcams. And in particular, he looks at this one that's set up on the shores of Loch Ness. And if you've never been there, one thing you have to understand is that because it is a tourist attraction, it's not like the webcam isn't just like out in the middle of nowhere where, wild beasts could interfere with it. It's kind of attached to there's a bit of a hill, and there's a visitor center at the top of the hill. And then the webcam looks down toward the castle ruins which are right on the shore of Loch Ness. And it's stunningly beautiful, stunningly beautiful. And anytime you go there, whether you're driving by or you're taking a ship or I mean, a boat or whatever, you can't miss these castle ruins. And so the webcam is trained on that, and it kind of just does like a slow, loop of the area, or kind of passes through the area looking down at Loch Ness, but with the castle kind of in the foreground. And there's some footage that shows a ripple, a dark ripple. And I watched it several times because my first time I watched it, I couldn't see it. I was like, I don't see it. And then I kind of got it bigger on my screen and waited for the time. That's right. Urquhart Castle. And then waited for the time to kind of, come up where it is. It's like, 1 minute into it or 60 seconds or whatever. And I guess 1 minute and 60 seconds are the same thing.
Good mathematics.
Depending on who you ask, maybe it's 58 seconds or something. But anyway, there's tons of articles out there about it. And you can see this ripple. There's definitely something there that's not there before. And it's also probably important to note that if you kind of look at the surface of the lake, you can see the direction that the wind is going. And so when we were there, it wasn't particularly windy, but there was wind. I mean, it's the Highlands. There's always some wind. But anyway, so then you could see in this thing there's a bit of a ripple, and it's actually fairly close to shore, which surprised me. And then recently, actually, I just read on, I think it was Coast to Coast, they have a newsletter with like articles and stuff. And the guy who had spotted it kind of blew up the picture and circled where the creature is. So it's grainy because it's from, webcam footage, but it's definitely like, it definitely is. It's just fascinating because, the history of that monster goes back a little further than I think people realize. And that was another thing I kind of discovered when I was there. Also, incidentally, if anybody wants to go in on a church that is basically like attached to a graveyard where they actually, there's men who were executed as Jacobites buried there. Super haunted cemetery that overlooks the River Ness. It's for sale. So I'm just saying, make some kind of weird community center there in Inverness. Could happen.
What's the price tag?
250,000 pounds. Starting at. But it's livable. I mean, it's not gross. It's not like, it's gross in a church way, you know what I mean? Like terrible flooring and stuff, but it's not gross like it's crumbling apart. That the Church of Scotland sells properties, and you don't own the cemetery, and a organization comes and takes care of the cemetery, but you own the church in the middle of the cemetery. And so basically that's your garden. I mean, it overlooks this beautiful river, right in the center on High Street in the middle of Inverness. And might I add, as a selling point, there's a bookstore attached to it. So it kind of has it all. I don't know. Just thinking about it, someone will snatch it up, and it's licensed. You can turn it into anything you want. Not anything you want. Probably can't turn it into like a thumping pagan nightclub, but because you have to get approval from the board or whatever. But you can turn it into a community center. You can turn it into an art gallery, a restaurant. You have to have the money to be able to convert it, but you can turn it into something other than a church. You could, I suppose, have it be a church if you really wanted to.
How haunted is it?
So I didn't experience anything in that cemetery other than like some gut-wrenching tears when I learned of where these Jacobite soldiers were executed, because they show you where the stones are, where they were shot. But it's supposed to be one of the most haunted places in Scotland. Not the church so much, but the cemetery itself.
Oh my.
So if you look up, I think it's called High Street Cemetery is the name of the cemetery. And yeah, there's been a number of sightings of soldiers, of ghosts, of, various. No, I can't recall anything particularly like negative, like, people weren't like getting scratched or anything like that, but just definitely a lot of eerie things. It's not a huge cemetery. So, it's just the right size. And somebody else
Sure.
mows the lawn for you. I mean, hey, it's basically paradise. It's
Are you
paradise.
kidding me?
Just waiting.
I almost brought out my lawnmower today just because I think I saw about 3 blades of green grass.
I know. It's coming. You'll be mowing before you know
I
it.
know. Yeah. See, I got a beautiful tractor mower.
Oh, you do? Oh, you're got a riding one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got half an acre. I'm not pushing that thing. I'm way too lazy. Way too lazy for that.
I make my son do it.
Yeah, ask my son if he wants to drive the lawnmower, and he's like, no. Scares him.
Oh,
He's a little freaked
no.
out still.
Yeah,
We
he's
got
a little young.
we got 2 minutes to go before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Varla Ventura is our guest tonight. Our Cryptid World is the show she comes in on each and every month. What is the energy like around Loch Ness for those of us who've never been there?
It's amazing. It's an absolutely stunningly beautiful lake. So the only equivalent that I've seen in my lifetime has been Lake Superior in terms of the color. I mean, it's smaller than Lake Superior, but it has that like almost navy blue color, relatively serene. And then, you can't beat the fact that there's, castle ruins. It's fairly narrow. Certainly, like when you pull up there's a lot of tourist atmosphere. I personally am not bothered by that because, it's brought a lot of money into the economy in Inverness, and Inverness is such a cool, overlooked town. It's really overlooked. People use it as a jumping off point to get to all of these other gorgeous places in the Highlands, and they don't always like stay. And Inverness just has this, it's a little rough around the edges, but it's just like a gorgeous little town with incredible people. But Loch Ness, I think it's not, I wouldn't say somber is not quite the right word, but there's a serenity there that I certainly felt, as soon as we got on the got up to its shores. It's definitely there is some eeriness, and I think if you can go there when it's a little more isolated and there's a fewer people, or you can do that's now on my bucket list, to actually do something a little more private rather than get on, you go up and you buy this ticket and you end up on this ferry with all these other people, which was fine. It's fine. You can get a drink on the ferry and kick it. But it definitely, there's some good energy there. It's not frightening to me in any way. And actually, I did learn that originally the monster was all the way up in the River Ness. And the story that I was told by a local is that the monster went all the way up the River Ness. So the River Ness is fairly shallow. I mean, I was there in April. Oh, I'll tell you later.
Yeah, let's finish up after when we get back from the break here on Spaced Out Radio. Varla Ventura, her website, varlaventura.net, where you can find all of her books. Spaced Out Radio's second half hour coming up right after this. Stay tuned. Quickly say hello to Sonia Hazy. Welcome back. Mr. Eon, the voice of the gods. Oh, if you could hear Mr. Eon speak, Varla. He's got one of those voices like James Earl Jones with a British
Oh,
accent.
so nice.
Take James
Oh, so
Earl Jones'
nice.
voice with a British accent. It is heavenly, his voice. So beautiful. Yeah, I have a crush on Mr. Eon's voice. I do. Mm-hmm. Yep. And we got
So, you want to
what
buy a
else?
church? I mean, my only problem with that whole scenario is the church part, to be honest with you.
Take me to church.
I don't my friend that I was traveling with, she loves Gothic architecture, and there were several times where she wanted to go in some of the cathedrals, and I was like, yeah, I'll wait out here. Can't be held accountable for my behavior in there. So
Mm-hmm. That would be great. That would be great. I would do something like that. I actually, believe it or not, I have an investor out of Texas who will you'll meet at the Spaced Out Radio Party in Vegas, where he wants to buy up here with where I live, because I've told him how weird and strange it is up here. I have two realtors up here looking for the most haunted property and house that
ooh.
they can find, and I'm going to turn it into a bed and breakfast. Him and
Oh
I.
yeah. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great I used to joke with friends that, like, because I always look like haunted. If it's haunted, I'll go there. And I used to joke that if I had a bed and breakfast, like, I would just plant something on the internet that it was haunted, just to, if my bookings weren't up,
Mm. Oh yeah.
But
No.
better that it actually be haunted, of course. I mean, I've stayed in so many places where I've had experiences and not realized that they are even, I mean, anything can be haunted, but just like not realize that someone else had that experience in the same place, but 5 years
Mhm.
before or 2 years later they do, or it's always really fascinating. I love that. And I would stay there.
Yeah.
I would
Oh, you
stay there for a
definitely would.
long time and write a book.
We're waving at Linda because she's like, "Hello, it's Spaced Out Radio," so I'm waving.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
Linda. Oh yeah, we can wave on the YouTubers.
Yes.
Since we're not
Yes.
on
Yes.
Regs Radio.
Yes. Not right now. And there's a newbie, Michelle. She's giving me some love right there with the heart. She's like,
Aw.
man. She's like, man, that Canadian looks okay tonight. He looks A-OK.
You know, it looks really good.
Varla
That
Ventura.
hat.
Yeah.
That hat you're wearing looks great.
By the way,
Love it.
random guy is wondering about your empty picture frame behind you.
I have a thing. It's not the only one. There's actually, let's see if I can tilt this. If you're looking, random guy. So this is my version of a gallery wall, and there's actually multiple empty picture frames. And it's just a thing. I've done it since I was a teenager. I've just always found beautiful frames. It kind of started because I found some beautiful frames that I really liked. And when you find an old picture frame, it's kind of difficult to put something in it, like if it's not glass and doesn't have a backing. And so I think I sort of like randomly hung one on the wall one time, and I think I hung some dried flowers in the middle of it, or, something that a Gothic teen would do. And I just really liked it. And so I've always done it. It's just, to me, it's like, hey, anything you want can be in there. And also, I just love the color of my walls, so it kind of just like frames the wall color to me. So that's the
Perfect.
best I can do. I actually thought it was a thing. But I get asked about it every time somebody comes over. It was empty picture frames, and sometimes I get mocked. But you know what? I don't care because I'm a grown-ass woman and I can put empty picture frames on my wall if I want to.
That's right. That's right. Hey, I want to say a big thank you to Carlito, Dry Toast, and Simon for the awesome super chat. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears and everything that you do. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to see you. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our Cryptid World with Varla Ventura continues here as we are into sea monsters. And you were talking right before the break, Varla, about the energy of Loch Ness when you were there for the first time just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, right. I know. Terrible. Just kept lathering there. Wasn't paying any attention to the time cues. So I had was saying that the River Ness is the river that runs through the middle of Inverness, and that flows into Loch Ness. And so my knowledge of the Loch Ness monster is, not particularly deep. Not necessarily greater than the average person, for knowing that there've been sightings. So my understanding was that it kind of got named the Loch Ness monster, or Nessie, in the 30s, the 1930s. It was sort of officially identified, and that is true. That's kind of when it kind of started becoming like more of a tourist attraction, I guess. But it actually dates back way further than that. Actually dates back, I think, to the the 6th century, so the 500s. And what happened is people were drowning in the river, and one man in particular was had drowned, and his family or friends or whatever were burying him, and they said that he had died battling a horrible monster that had reared up out of the river. And so at the time, there was a saint who had come over he was actually an Irish saint, and he came over, Saint Columbo, I believe. And he basically came in and was did a banishing. So he totally did a banishing ritual and banished the monster to the lake, and said, you can't come up the River Ness anymore and torment the people of Inverness who use that river, every day. And so banished it out to the lake, where it's been ever since. Now, you could argue that it was already in the lake and it would come up the river, but basically he put this magical barrier. And that's the kind of cool thing about some of those really, the 6th century monks and saints and stuff. They were doing some pretty hardcore magic, in my opinion. So anyway, he did this banishing, and that sort of banished the monster out there. But ever since then, people have had sightings of that monster. It really just wasn't until the 1930s that it was photographed, because of course that's when it kind of became more common for people to be, out with their own camera. Cameras had been invented for a while, but it really wasn't an everyday household item. Not everyone had one. Until the 30s and 40s, it became a much more common thing. And that's when people started snapping photos. And of course, with any cryptid, there's always lots of, potentially fake evidence. And then there's also a lot of convincing evidence. And the most convincing evidence is usually just people's experiences, like anything, right? Like with any kind of paranormal phenomenon, people's individual experiences and what they saw is always the most interesting. But that webcam footage is definitely worth checking out. People can see what they think about it.
Let's talk about the Loch Ness monster. I mean, this is a creature that is still battled to for hundreds of years, and whether or not it truly exists, those who have seen it completely believe that there is a sea monster of some sort living in the lake. The skeptics tend to believe that there is some sort of large sturgeon or freshwater eel or something that could be causing the ripples in the water, and so on and so forth. Where do you stand on this?
Well, I guess I kind of stand a little bit. Well, I'm a believer in all the things, but I guess I stand a little bit in the middle, because as a person who has studied a lot of folklore extensively, I have found that very frequently the stories that are the original stories um, come from a place of truth, and that they may very well be describing that thing that we are now thinking is unusual. So, in other words, Kraken, great example, right? There are these fantastical stories of the Kraken, this very, this cephalopod that reaches out and pulls down ships. Very popular in Norse mythology. Well, apart from the practicalities of the fact that, it was dangerous to be out in the ocean, you have to remember the size of a Viking ship. If you've ever seen a replica, they're pretty small. So we think of ships today, we think of these enormous vessels, right? But they're pretty small. And things were not overfished. There weren't that many predators. And we've seen, even in, recent years, these giant Humboldt squids off the coast of the Pacific, especially in California and down into Mexico, that are very aggressive and will come up out of the deep, and they will pull on boats and fishing boats. So then you add to that the fisherman's tale of it getting from this big to being this big to being this big every time you tell it, and you can kind of see how there's really not that much of a difference. Like, it might be an eel, but the point is, we don't know. And would it make people feel better if they discovered that it was an eel? I mean, wouldn't that just be evidence that it's been there all along? And then also, from the point of view of the monster, of course you're going to be as elusive as possible, because you know full well there's generations of people hunting you. So you're gonna, it's like Bigfoot. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna hide out because I don't trust mankind. So I'm kind of like in the middle. Like, I don't think there's necessarily a huge difference between it being a giant eel and it being a supernatural creature, because it's really probably the same thing. And I love that we don't know, and I love that we're going to forever be investigating the things out of the corner of our eyes. That's to me the ultimate hunt, is to try and put something that is non-tangible into a tangible world. And that's the challenge we all have, right? We're kind of, if you're listening to the show, you're probably walking the line most days. You have your day job, and you do your day things, and you do, regular stuff like making your breakfast and coffee and all of that stuff. And then you also know that, at 3 a.m., the air changes, and something, magic is afoot. And, whether you're a skeptic or a believer, there are these kind of things that we all have in common. And so when you're walking that line, like, I don't know, I think it just has evolved in my mind to being the same thing, to being the supernatural creature. It very well could be a giant eel, But that in itself is a phenomenon, because how is that even there? And how has it been there for so long and never been caught? And is it the same one? And so it just brings up a whole other host of questions. So it doesn't really like solve the mystery, which I think is a good thing. But I didn't see it with my own eyes, and that is, of course, something I would love to see. And I think it's also something that's difficult to see when you're looking for it. Just like, barging
Yes.
into a haunted house and being like, come on, ghosts, let's go. Doesn't really work that way, right?
Well, the idea that there is still living dinosaurs, so to speak,
Right.
in our oceans. I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. It's like I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that there could be megalodon, or
Yeah.
what Max Hawthorne likes to call super great whites, that are,
Yeah.
in that 30 to 50-foot category. And the ocean is big. We don't see
Yep.
everything on a daily basis. We're not filming on a daily basis. Like sometimes in the after show, when I'm editing, I'll go and I'll put on our screen these live cameras of animals in Africa, at these feeding points. We don't get that in the ocean. And we really don't know. I mean, except for traces of evidence where, like, I remember a few years ago, there was a video, you can probably still find it on YouTube, a video of a 15-foot great white that was caught in one of the nets, the safety nets for the beaches in Australia. The problem is this shark had a spine to spine bite out of its neck. Not 2 bites, not 3 bites, 1 bite out of its neck. So you look at, they average that the shark that would have had to have done that had to be at least, at minimum, 20 feet, at maximum
Right.
maybe 30 feet, in order to do that.
And aggressive.
And aggressive.
And
Well, it's a
aggressive. Yeah. Yeah.
struggling mammal, struggling fish. That's a free
Yeah.
meal. It's a
Yeah.
free meal, right? So the idea that there is, something bigger out there is understandable. But dinosaurs? Some sort of plesiosaur that is still roaming around Loch Ness, or around my area in Okanagan Lake, the Ogopogo, and many
Yeah.
others, Lake
Ogopogo.
Champlain.
Yeah.
I just don't know if there
Campy.
is dinosaurs out there.
Well, I mean, I don't think they're necessarily dinosaurs. I think that that might be the closest thing that we could describe them as, but they can very well be creatures that survived and evolved and are not really identified. And I mean, to your point, that just, I think last week I read an article about 2 unidentified fish species that were photographed in one of the trenches of the Pacific. So there are places, and this is true of Loch Ness. I mean, they have like sonar equipment that on a lot of those ships. So you go, or the boats, I keep saying ships, they're not really ships. They're, like little yachts, whatever, that they go out into the lake, and they kind of look at the sonar. This is also, closer to where I grew up, is Lake Tahoe. There's a few legends about there being a creature in Lake Tahoe. That's been pretty glossed over because Tahoe is such a destination for like normal people, I guess, if you know what I mean, like people who aren't necessarily, in Scotland, they just embraced it, right? They're like, okay, let's embrace it. Lake Champlain, let's embrace it. It's champy. So some places will just kind of go with it, but in Tahoe, it's like this fancy resort place. And so they don't really talk about that, but you also can look back into the Indigenous history, the First Nation stories, and you'll see, great example, Lake Superior, right? There's basically a water panther in Lake Superior. And I personally have been to pictographs along the side of Lake Superior, just over the border in Sault Ste. Marie, Canada. If you go down along the shores of Lake Superior, there is a whole set of very visible pictographs that have, been there for hundreds, if not longer, of years. And one of them depicts, the Gitchigumi monster. It's basically this sea serpent that looks kind of a little bit cat-like, and it has this very jaggedy tail. And it's said that is what can cause shipwrecks and storms. It slams its tail down, and it can, bring you to your imminent demise. So,
and that's why we love Lightfoot right there.
Yeah.
The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald song.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that song. Yeah, that's a great song.
We can sing it. We can sing it if you want.
Okay, well, let's just start it. Okay. Legend lives on from the Chippewa down to the big lake they call Gitchigumi. The lake, it is said, never gives up their dead. Okay, I mix all the lyrics up, but yeah. So, but I mean, that's true, right? And you will find that just as First Nations stories have been sort of glossed over or, colonized, and so they've been romanticized, you find that also in Ireland and Scotland. You do see that a very similar kind of pattern there, where the original stories are looked down upon as, people being less than. We experience that today. If you raise your hand and you're like, I believe in Bigfoot, or I've been abducted. The general populace, you can't say that to the general populace so much. I mean, some people do, right? Out about it. This is a safe space to talk about it. I realize it's a public forum and anyone can listen, but it is, and that this is a safe place and a place that you've cultivated to allow people that are interested in these phenomenons talk about them, but also identify that they're not alone, right? And so you have, but there's still, like, there's people in your family that you just don't talk about this with. You just don't say it. They don't want to hear it. They're not going to believe you. They're going to, think that you have some kind of psychosis. So, and everybody's different with what they're, a lot of people cannot abide that mermaids are real, right? They'll be like, yeah, I've been abducted. Yeah, I believe in Bigfoot. Yeah, I've seen some kind of dog man, but mermaids, but I think just kind of going back to that vastness of the ocean and so little that we understand, and these incredibly bizarre creatures that are discovered like every day. Like, how dare we think that we actually know? We don't live underwater. We don't know what's under there. So it's presumptuous of us to to assume that we have, as you said, put a light and put a probe in every single crack in the entire ocean. Of course not. And giant lakes like Lake Superior and Loch Ness, like they, there's even Lake Tahoe. There's just not. We don't live underwater, so we don't know what goes on there. So we can dive down and we can explore and we can take snapshots, but it's like taking a snapshot of somebody's life, or my comparison earlier. If you live in a haunted house, you don't necessarily have an experience every single day, but you have frequent experiences. But if I just walk into your house, I may not have an experience. I might have to hang out there for, weeks before something is actually shows itself to me. So, we have this thirst, which I have as well, to kind of figure things out and get to the bottom of all of these mysteries and identify these cryptids. But, we have to temper that with just the understanding that we have no idea, really, right? We really don't know. The more experiences you have and the more bizarre stuff that you see, the more you realize how little you know. And it's very humbling, it's like, oh, I don't even know my place in this universe right now.
Where does it go? But the idea, though, that there's still a lot of people who believe that these sea monsters are of descent of the plesiosaur or whatever,
Yeah.
unless you get into the African area of the Congo, where they believe that there's a dinosaur called the Makili Mbembe still walking around in the
Yeah.
jungles there. And the problem with that is due to the type of diseases that are still running around that forest, because it's still, probably less than a third world country, and due to the fact that there is all sorts of war going on, and civil war still going on there, you can't get people there. It's way too dangerous to try and get there, to actually do a long-term study, which would probably need to be done there to
Hmm.
prove the existence. So I mean, this is where, a lot of people will have troubles believing that there are still big creatures, whether they're dinosaurs or not, we don't know, but we monsters that we would consider dinosaurs, on whether or not they're still out there.
Well, I also think that, our understanding, like we have a obviously a pretty remarkable understanding of how the earth has evolved, right? Like our general understanding, or what we're taught in school. It's pretty remarkable that this much has been figured out, or um, you know, identified as likely. But I think, if you talk to any scientist, they'll be the first to tell you, like, nothing's known. I mean, science is evolving. And I remember when I was a young, very young woman, taking a lot of archaeology and anthropology classes, and taking a biological anthropology class from a wonderful professor. The first thing he said is, this book that you just spent $80 on is very likely going to be outdated by the time we get to the end of this class, because we will find something that we will be able to identify as a different piece in the puzzle of human evolution. And sure enough, by the end of that class, before the end of the class, there were some bones identified that kind of disrupted the early hominid evolutionary path, and where it went. And actually, within a year of that, there were other bones discovered that were human bones, that were fossils that were identified in the Pacific Northwest, actually, that identified a different idea of what's been taught, which is, of course, a very Eurocentric idea that, everyone just migrated over from Asia. And so, just knowing that, and knowing that we have a good idea that the earth was one way because of the organic matter, and, being able to kind of trace, like, what happened a billion years ago or whatever, we have an idea. But that idea is forever evolving with the new discoveries that we make and the new technology that we have. For example, really, really interesting. This isn't necessarily cryptid related, but in terms of, like, science and technology, I went to the kind of in the Inverness area is the Culloden battlefield, which anyone familiar with Scottish history will know what that is. But it was basically kind of the turning point, which the Jacobite army basically was slaughtered, and it kind of turned the tides of history, and who would be king. And so we were kind of walking around with this really interesting woman who was giving us a little, like, kind of a brief tour. And she was saying, here's all of these stones that have clans identified. And, but we've done sonar photographs now of this entire battlefield, and we know where the bones are. Yeah. And so it's
And on that
interesting that, no.
on that note, I'm going to cut you off right there, because unfortunately we do have to go to break here at the top of the hour.
I'm off.
More monster talk here with Varla Ventura on Our Cryptid World. Her website, varlaventura.net. You can get all of her great books there, or in any major bookstore across North America. Spaced Out Radio's hour number 2 continues with Varla, and we'll get to your questions as well if you're in one of our chat rooms or on Twitter. What kind of wine are we on tonight?
Well, I'm not a lost poet. So it's Sabotage 2020
Let's see the bottle.
French. See the bottle? Oh, actually, it's totally appropriate. Look, it's a,
Sabotage.
yeah, it's like saving it. It's a life preserver in the sea.
Nice.
I didn't do
Nice.
that on purpose. That's just one of the.
Sure you did.
So I don't know if
Sure you
you noticed, but at the very beginning of the show, like right before you called me on, I was like kind of going like this
Yeah.
off
I
screen. It's
did
because
know.
I was trying to reach my tarot cards because I always pull cards from all my decks
I know.
right before the show, and I was like, I hadn't pulled my tarot cards, so I was
Oh, you
kind of
know
trying.
what?
And so there's one.
Why
There's
don't you
one.
pull your card for the audience? I'm going to take a quick break here. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay. I will do so.
All right.
Okay. I'm gonna do one from the Thoth deck, which is people also call it the Aleister Crowley deck. And if you've seen me on the show before, you probably heard me talk about this particular deck. But this is a really interesting deck because if you know this, it has the Rosicrucian deal there. This particular, so I have never vibed with this particular tarot deck. It's always been difficult for me to read. And then my mom gave me this deck, and actually what happened is she handed it to me and she was like, "Oh, you want to check this deck out?" And she had been gifted this deck by a man who had a strange amount of treasures. I think he actually was part pixie or leprechaun, but he lived way up on top of a mountain and he lived in a trailer, which he was basically squatting on some like a mining claim. So he kind of was like a claim jumper guy. And this is like recently, not back in the 1800s or anything. And the guy he was on oxygen and he had jars of like mercury behind him in like jam jars. Anyway, he lived like a pauper, but he also had this incredible amount of treasure, and he didn't trust banks and he didn't trust people, and so he buried everything in the ground. Now, why he buried this particular deck in the ground, I'm not entirely sure. My interactions with him were never necessarily high spiritual. It's usually my mom coming over for dinner, or my parents kind of caretaking him, and my mom giving him pie or whatever. So it wasn't like I said, "Oh, what's your philosophy on tarot and life?" But one day, and this man's name was Robert, and he was still alive then. She said, "Oh, Robert gave me this." She's like, "Oh, you check this deck out. You'll probably like it. You'll appreciate it." And I looked at it and I was like, "Oh, it's the Crowley deck." I just can't understand it. And I picked it up and it just had the most amazing feeling. And I flipped a card over and I instantly understood what it meant. And my mom said, "Yeah, this was buried in the ground for 10 years. And it was buried with a couple other things. I also have a huge crystal that this guy buried in the ground." My mom has like some daggers and just all kinds of antiquities. So it's just kind of a cool, interesting story. And, whatever he did, he kind of just purified the hell out of it. We're on YouTube, so I can swear. So yeah, and then she gave it to me in the bag that he gave it to her in. And I know that some people say keep your tarot cards in silk, but this is actually in wool. It's in a woolen bag, and I just go with it. Keep it in the as he buried it. So and my mom didn't really know. She just accepted the gift. She didn't ask a lot of questions, and she didn't really know why he buried it. Did he bury it because it had a weird vibe? Did he bury it because it was a first edition and therefore it was valuable? And so he, didn't want anyone to steal it. I'm not entirely all of the above. Yeah, not entirely sure. So I'll do a card here. Oh, I love this card. Yeah, this is a good card. This is the so in the Crowley deck, it's discs. Discs are the same as pentacles, and we got the 2 of discs. And if you'll just look closely, you will see a serpent. So it's on topic for tonight. And this is a great card. It's like the infinity card, and it also represents kind of change and evolution. So there we go. And it's kind of got the Ouroboros thing where the snake is biting its own tail. So that's what we got. It's on topic with the whole eel serpent snake thing. I don't know about you guys, but I've been really into snakes lately, so I'm happy that I got a snake card.
All right.
Hey,
we'll be in our Vegas party next month, just 3 weeks away, hanging on out with us.
yeah,
So
I'll bring a deck. Why not? I'll bring a deck. I probably won't bring that deck because I just won't. It's not too dark. It's too sacred for me, just because of the fact that my mom gave it to me and this guy buried it in the ground and everything. And, I just kind of want to let it be private.
We got to go here. Hold on. Here's hour 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway. Thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are in the beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Dave the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What you got for us tonight, Clam? Oh, I don't know. Tractor is your password. As the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, it is Xinium. Xinium is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Now, if you're listening on the radio, you're not going to really understand this, but Dirty Filth usually comes in and he'll draw cartoons during the show. And during the show, his cat, which is named Blob, will actually come out and sit on the art while Filth is drawing and painting it. And so our audience, I'm kind of laughing a little bit because our audience is like, we want Blob. Where's Blob? Blob needs, he must have some stories. Yeah. We want Blob. We want Blob, Dirty Filth. We want Blob here. So get your butt on camera and bring Blob with you. All right. Varla Ventura is our guest tonight. Our cryptid world happens near the end of each month, where we talk about the darker side of the cryptid world with the acclaimed author, which you could find her books at any major bookstore or on her website, varlaventura.net. Varla, thank you so much. We're talking about sea monsters tonight. And right before the break, we were talking about Loch Ness Monster and everything that goes along with whether or not it's a dinosaur, a sturgeon, a freshwater eel, whatever it may be. I always wonder if it's, because the Scotland and the Loch Ness isn't that far, technically speaking, from Iceland and Greenland, where the Greenland shark is. And the Greenland shark could get up to 20, 25 feet long. They seem to live near the bottom in the darker parts of the ocean. They I believe that it's the oldest shark in the world, where they've found one that they figured is around 400 years old. I mean, this is something. Do you think it could be a Greenland shark?
I've actually never really thought about that. It's obviously it's possible, yes, but I don't. I don't think so, because it definitely has more of a serpentine quality to it. And you know what I mean? Like it's very, yeah, it's very serpent like. But that's an excellent point, because it is very far north, and a lot of those, the Vikings were the big explorer, the original explorers, right? And so they were going out on their ships, and they were coming over to North America far earlier than we originally thought, right? Like we thought, oh, they just showed up there after, the Spanish or whatever, and that's not true at all. Going to like Newfoundland, we found like evidence of, well, not we, but we as humans have found evidence of Viking settlements going back with, where they went back and forth. And so a lot of those maps that have sea serpents and mermaids and creatures and the Kraken were drawn by early cartographers who were coming from the North Sea, and they very well may have been seeing something like the Greenland shark and saying, okay, this is, we're going to just put this down as a sea serpent because we don't have another name for it. So sea serpent here, don't go there, sail your ship away from there. It'll knock you out of the water with its tail. Or Kraken water, don't go here. So yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible. And those, those lakes do feed out, because Scotland has so many lakes and rivers that feed right out to the ocean as well. So it's possible.
Yeah. Like I know with Ogopogo, I know I'm probably in the minority of this, and Ogopogo and Okanagan Lake are about 4 hours south of me in Kelowna, British Columbia, stretching down to Penticton, British Columbia. The lake is about 60 plus miles long. And they say, I mean, to this date, there's people who believe that, like even one of our questions from the audience from Mike here, which is, what's your thoughts on the Ogopogo picture that came up a few months ago, where it looks like the head, like a wooden carving of a head of a dragon. That's kind of what it looks to me. But the idea behind it, that I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know if I believe that. I know that Okanagan Lake is the start of the Columbia River, and that eventually separates Washington State from Oregon. There is a very large portion of giant white sturgeon in that area that could grow up to 20 feet long. And I tend to think that it's we know they use Okanagan Lake as a breeding ground. So it wouldn't surprise me if Ogopogo was one of these, maybe one or two of these giant sturgeon that were swimming, maybe back to, one in front of the other, making the ripples in the water. It wouldn't surprise me at all, but I could be in the minority with that. I mean, but then there's still questions about what's in Lake Champlain, what's Loch Ness, and what's in Lake Winnipeg, what's in, I mean, there are hundreds of lakes in North America that claim to have sea monsters.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple different schools of thought on that too. And on the one hand, as I kind of mentioned, like we're when we don't have the exact word for something, we might call it something else. So today we might be calling it, a sea monster or whatever, but that's a holdover. Maybe it is a sturgeon, but 2,000 years ago, the first person who saw it was like, oh, that's a monster, and I'm not going in that lake because that thing could eat me. So I'm going to tell everybody, look out for that monster. Its tail is going to hit the water and knock your boat over. Like, don't go in there. And that then, of course, becomes what now we look at as some fantastical myth, but was really actually a very practical and true story once upon a time, right? So there's that idea. There's the idea that you think about the game of telephone and then run that through a colonial lens that doesn't understand Indigenous wisdom at all. And suddenly you've got something threatening that you don't fully grasp, right? So there's a lot of like ways to look at that. But I think the thing that unifies those ideas is that there's something there, right? There's something there, and there's something that has either survived and been bigger and stronger than anything else, or there's something that, and we're human, right? We're like, oh, it's got to be supernatural if it can survive us. That's the only way. But if you look back into kind of like, let's just take like fairy lore, for example. um the way that, so once upon a time in Ireland, the fairies, they were fighting the mortals, and they basically were losing. And Manon MacLear, who was the son of the sea god, gave them this gift to cloak themselves and kind of like hide away whenever they needed to, and they could just take the cloak off and show themselves. Well, a lot of people consider that cloak of invisibility to be also kind of like a shroud, a mist, a fog that will come off of water and will kind of encompass something, so you're confused. So supernatural creatures have that ability, right? They have that ability to, that's what makes them supernatural, is that they're not human. And so they may have this gift to be able to kind of shroud themselves in a certain amount of mystery. I feel like there's like a Far Side cartoon or something in here with like, Nessie and Bigfoot. They're all sitting around, they all walk into a bar and they're laughing at all the humans who, keep calling them all these names and getting it wrong. But I think the unifying idea is that there is this kind of shroud of mystery that allows us to, or forces us to be separate from whatever these things are. And if we don't have that shroud of mystery, we can have our theories, right? So many years ago, when I was working on the Mermaid book, there were these massive eels that were washing up on the shores in Southern California. Massive, bigger than anyone had ever seen before. Didn't even know that they could be that big. And they're, these giant serpents, they're, 20, 30 feet long, and they're washed up on the shore, and they're basically just like water snakes. They're pretty freaky to people. So, okay, now you have your evidence. Sea serpents are real. Like, what else are you going to call that? It's a giant snaky thing that looks like a serpent that lives in the water. Like, it might not look exactly like the drawing from the 1500s, but pretty close, right? So, but I think the unifying thing is that, at least for me, is that cloak, that transitory zone that keeps us from knowing or seeing those things all the time, or from experiencing those things all the time. That transitory zone, that's sort of that's the sacred place. And that gives us so much if we can just accept that we don't have all of the answers, and we can just kind of go with that, like, okay, that's been cloaked in mystery. And I think that's kind of the unifying thing with fairy sightings, with sea serpents, with Bigfoot, with any kind of cryptid creature, is that the cloaking is used for their protection, maybe, for our advantage, perhaps, so that we continue to question whether or not it's real. But also that just kind of gives us this understanding that there is a transition to actually walk into that world. You can't just go in there with your combat boots on and your bow and arrow. You got to be like, looking for war, right? You've got to do something in order to access that space. So whether that's a ceremony or, meditating, putting yourself in that right headspace. Now, that is if you're deliberately trying to access it. Sometimes you're just walking along and you see a ghost, like right. That just happens.
It does.
But that's what you call the second sight, and that's its own gift, right? Because that means that there's a part of you that can see through that veil any old time. You just don't know how to control it. And very advanced mediums and such are able to actually control that. You can train your brain to trust your own psychic abilities and trust what you see, and kind of like, move through that. So I don't know, tangent, but also I wanted to show you that now people on the radio can't see this, but you can look up what the Dion Fortune Emperor card looks like. But right as you were coming back into the room, Dave, I pulled this card, and it's just so I just really liked it. It's a guy on his throne, and he's surrounded by the stars, and it's the Emperor. So I just wanted to show you that because it's totally a cool card.
That is
side
awesome.
note, sidebar,
total
non-serpent related sidebar. Had to share magic moment.
Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Where do mermaids come into this? Because I know somebody's going to ask about mermaids, so I might as well get right to it.
Well, they rule. That's basically it. They rule the ocean. I mean, mermaids and mer creatures, they're like the original shapeshifters, right? They're like these incredible they're not even half human, right? Like we say that, but they're just entities from another world that give off the appearance, and part of their shape-shifting ability is to give off the appearance of being like a beautiful woman, and trying to kind of lure you into the sea. They operate on a plane that is different from ours. They have a moral compass that is different from our own. So some mermaids can be very helpful. They can help fishermen who are respectful of the sea and leave, adequate offerings and don't throw their, soda cans into the ocean. They'll lead them to successful harvests and protect them if a storm's coming in. But, it's pretty easy to make a mermaid mad. So then you're going to have something that's seemingly beautiful just long enough to lure you in. And then you're basically going to be thrashing and drowning and you can't breathe. And then you're probably going to die. And if you live to tell the tale, you're going to describe this thing that has transformed from what looked human into something quite horrific. Jagged, crooked, multiple layers of teeth, hair that is basically the kind of hair that reaches out and strangles you, graying skin, all kinds of very terrifying things. And some of the scariest imagery of mermaids comes from Irish folklore. If you dig into the marrow, there's some romanticized stories from the Victorian era, that those are the ones that depict the mermaids that, like the ones on the cover of my book. This is actually from a hair ad from the Victorian era. And it's, these lovely mermaids sitting around a rock, combing their hair and, cooing and basking in the sun with a ship in the background, not knowing what it's going to get, because mermaids, of course, will lure you to a shipwreck. And then, then what they do, my theory, mermaids are psychopomps. A psychopomp is a guide between the living world and the world of the dead. Psychopomps. So mermaids are psychopomps. It's like, oh, the sailors all drowned. We're going to just carry their souls down and care for them in this underwater graveyard and make sure that they're tended to, because otherwise their souls are just wandering around the ocean looking for peace. And so they actually have a very lovely role in that regard. Another psychopomp people are probably more familiar with are the Valkyries, which are the winged female creatures that kind of control were thought to control the battles during in Norse mythology, and they would swoop in and then decide who gets to go to Valhalla and who has to just basically go to purgatory. So the mermaids are psychopomps in that same way. I don't know. They're always beautiful women that turn bad, with questionable morals. So I
It's
think
like
we
the
can
night,
all support that. Yeah.
the night in Roxy in Vancouver.
So, well, I was gonna say it sounds like, sounds like a challenge.
Always a challenge. Always a challenge. Varla Ventura is here tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We got about 4 minutes before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Let's get to a question here from Guy. Do you consider megafauna the same as cryptids?
I mean, I kind of consider like anything that is yeah, I mean, for me, cryptozoology is a sort of an umbrella term for actually what I really consider probably all part of the fairy kingdom. And when I say fairy, I think just to clarify, that doesn't mean like the little Tinkerbell type creatures, but the kingdom of the Fae and the that kind of uh, subterranean culture of another entire sort of world of and lexicon of beings, from Pookas to changelings to banshees to ghosts. Those all kind of fit in that that world, that alternate world. And so to me, cryptozoology, that's why I like it so much, is I see so many, I see that as just sort of another umbrella term for what I kind of, look at as this alternate kingdom. And so I even think, I could probably find some evidence of something like Bigfoot and have seen actually quite a bit of evidence of Bigfoot in folklore, certainly in North America, but I think you can find the equivalent around the world. So yeah, I think so. I mean, to me, a lot of those sort of supernatural creatures all kind of fall in that same. I don't really separate and say like, okay, this Mothman is, and Pookas aren't. That to me, they all fall in that other world on the other side of that cloaking veil.
I get that, and I can appreciate that. The darkness behind, megafauna or something, and megafauna is something we've never really talked about. I mean, we've always kind of, made fun of Devil's Tower in Wyoming, where I call it a tree stump, and there are many, now
That place
scientists
is
will,
eerie, though. Have you ever been there? It's eerie.
no, no, I
It's eerie.
haven't, but many people will say that or scientists will say that it's brought up from volcanic activity way back when, and it's kind of like an earth zit kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but and I make jest of that, but there are people out there who believe that some of these rock formations are actually petrified trees that once ruled the world, that would raise up above the earth, 5, 8, 10 miles or more.
Yeah, yes, I have heard that theory before, and I mean, I need to see a little more evidence to think that is actually the case. But I also know that if you compare like the size of a T-Rex to the skeleton of a T-Rex to the skeleton of like a dog or something, you can kind of see that there's obviously like scientific evidence for creatures that were way bigger, but there's all kinds of stories of giants and trolls and half stag or half horse creatures that are much bigger than a normal horse. So having seen Devil's Tower, that would be a very large deer or something, right? Like that would be huge to be for that to have been a tree stump. But I mean, I like the idea in principle. I kind of like where it takes your mind of like looking at the world as a different landscape.
Very true. Very true. Varla Ventura, we have her till the top of the hour. Her website, varlaventura.net. As we continue on talking monsters with one of the great writers in North America. You can find her books at any major bookstore or on her website. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Good job, Varla.
Thanks. Good job, Dave.
Hi, Jedi Kung Fu.
Spaced
Welcome
Out
to SOR
Radio.
Chat. Spaced Out Radio. For some reason, the last few nights I've worn headphones, my ears start to plug.
Uh-oh. You gotta keep yourself in tip-top shape there, buddy.
Hey, I'll be ready for Vegas. Don't you worry. I started stretching tonight.
Start stretching. All right. Gonna get limber. You got a marathon coming up.
Oh no, it's gonna be a sprint. It's gonna be a sprint.
Isn't your team the Edmonton? You like the Edmonton Oilers, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they're still in it.
Hey, we're up 3 games to 2.
Yeah.
We're gonna finish LA tonight.
Yeah. just wipe it up.
That's it.
Wipe
We're
it
done.
up there. Yeah.
We're done. Del Taco is not too bad. Not too bad, Mike. Any taco is really good. Even Taco Del Mar. Appreciate that, Mike. Thank you so much, bud. Dave will transform into El Ovni Volador. No, I am not El Ovni Volador. I don't know why people think that I am El Ovni Volador or Volador. I don't get that.
I think that's your wrestling persona or something.
Yeah, that's something stupid. Because sometimes when I leave the studio and then
you put on a mask and all hell breaks loose.
I don't put on a mask. Okay, there's this idiot named El Omni Volador who sometimes comes in here, takes control of my studio when I disappear, and
when you you go out for a smoke or something, right?
Yeah, I may go to the bathroom or check for the northern lights or whatever it may be. So just the way it is. I mean,
yeah. So he's not invited to Vegas then?
No, I would never invite that jerk anywhere. I don't hang out with him.
No, of course not. You'd never be seen in the same room with him. Never.
Why would
that'd be beneath you?
He locked me out of my studio one night. Why would I?
Rude.
I wouldn't want that for anybody. I don't know. It's just bad.
Just bad.
Yeah. I don't like it.
So I'll just say it on air. I really want to go to the Zach Baggins Haunted Museum. So I'm thinking, what do you think, Dave? Friday is probably the best. Friday morning, maybe.
Friday morning. Some of us will be sleeping.
Stuff starts at what, 3 that day?
Yeah, we're gonna have.
I can't imagine you need more than an hour in that museum, and it's literally like a block away or something. So,
well, if you go with Merle, he's probably
going
going to
with
look
Merle.
at it.
Merle, do you want to go? Merle, are you listening? Do you want to go to the Haunted Museum with me?
Oh, he'll go.
I know you do. Yeah, great. Great.
Yeah. Anything to get closer to his crush.
Zach Baggins.
Yeah.
It's a common crush. Yeah.
I don't have that one.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the museum did definitely make me like him a lot. Because I was like, what? You just are making a museum of haunted objects and you're making it in Vegas? It's fantastic.
Right.
So I'm just curious. I want to know what's in there, and I want to know if anything feels weird, because Yeah, I've been in a couple of museums like that, and like I'm sure there's a couple creepy like clowns or dolls, or I know I told you about Robert the doll, right? That creepy little thing. Oh God, it's so creepy. Ooh,
Hold
it's
on,
in a
Marla.
sailor costume. It's so gross.
Hold on, Marla. We got 10 seconds. Thank you, Carlito, Dry Toast, Simon times 2, Deb, My Flock, Pam, and Mike for the amazing super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support. Here we go. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Varla Ventura is our guest tonight. We'll be with her momentarily because we have her until the top of the hour. I want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here she is, Varla Ventura, continuing on tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Our Cryptid World is what we call the show with Varla. Her website, varlaventura.net, where you can find all her major books or in any major bookstore. We're talking mermaids. Your favorite topic, Varla.
Yeah, I love mermaids so much. I wrote a whole book about them. They deserved a book in and of themselves, but they do belong in the lexicon of the fairy kingdom, in my opinion. And you will find that there are mermaid stories from around the world, in particular, anywhere that there's, an island nation. So throughout the Caribbean, that's actually a question I always ask whenever I travel places, especially along the sea, because you'll often get very interesting answers. Sometimes you kind of have to break the ice a little bit, but you hang out in the local bar long enough and, buy people a few beers, and the next thing you know, they're like, oh yeah, one time I was out fishing, and I heard this song. And a lot of times I actually have heard quite a few in more modern times. The stories that I've heard about mermaids do tend to be a little more protective. So kind of guiding people back to shore, or letting sailors know if they're in the, on a foggy night, like where not to go, hearing like just a song or something like that. But there's plenty of stories of, mermaids basically causing problems. But there are these incredible women in Korea that have, in like one of the Korean islands, that actually have the ability to have trained themselves to be underwater divers. They can dive down like, something crazy, like 20, 25 meters or more, and they can hold their breath for up to 10 minutes. And that's without any kind of equipment. And I've always found that very interesting because that to me shows that, there is kind of this ability to, it's long been thought that we, evolved from some sort of primordial ooze. At one point we had gills. And so the idea that there was maybe a species that, intersected or like separated and decided to stay in the water is definitely one of the big theories. It's a theory that of mermaids, and it's also the theory that supports the idea of Atlantis, right? It's the very core of it, that there was an aquatic species of humans or humanoid-like creatures that dwell beneath the sea. But I think, mermaids are just one of those really fascinating topics because you don't have to, unlike, if you like ghosts, you're going to read all the ghost stories and you're going to want to do some kind of like hauntings. And if you're either into Bigfoot or you're not, or you're into cryptids or you're not. But mermaids, they tend to have this really wide appeal. And people just they love mermaids. And we have a love-hate relationship with mermaids. But one of my favorite mermaid stories is that Blackbeard, who was like the most feared pirate of them all, was terrified of mermaids, and he was terrified of sailing through mermaid infested waters lest his crew be lured into jumping overboard. And interestingly, a lot of those were, Blackbeard like hid out like on the coast of Florida and like the Carolinas there. And a lot of those areas now we know are shallow waters where there are, it's where the manatees basically winter. They winter in the warmest, shallowest water. So whether Blackbeard, either way, Blackbeard's fears were legit, right? Because it's shallow water and you don't want your ship to go there. But yeah, I love that there's this, legendary pirate who was, a murderer and ruler of the high seas. And he is just afraid of a little old mermaid. Some wisdom there.
Mermaids have been seen from Vancouver to Jamaica, across America and into Central America. They've been seen in cold climates, in warm climates. Is there a difference between, say, a warm climate mermaid and, say, one that is in a colder climate?
I think the main difference is probably just sort of like, there's maybe some physical appearances. Like, of course, we have this idea that mermaids have, red hair and pale skin. And that's sort of the Disneyfication. But a lot of the original mermaid stories come from the shores of like South Africa and the Caribbean islands. And you have a creature that might actually look quite different than something like Ariel. You may have something that actually has a bifurcated tail, which is the split tail. So it looks almost looks like feet, but they're two tails. That's much more common in early depictions. And of course, dark skin, which I don't know how you could actually live in the ocean and have pale skin like the Disney version. It's absolutely ludicrous when you think of it. But hey, that's again the Disneyfication or the colonialization of these like original stories. So you have also other creatures that are mermaid-like, but might be different. Like you might have something that has more of a fish top with more human-like legs that kick. There's things like were-dolphins that basically shapeshift between being dolphin and something that looks more human-like. There's all kinds of, any kind of sea creature you can think of. It could be a sea turtle or anything like that can actually kind of shapeshift into something that looks more human. Things like the were dolphin are more aggressive. So you may have something that like is like shapeshifts for not everyone's benefit. But mermaids really are kind of thought to just like live there all the time and be their own kind of bizarro hybrid creature. But they're also the guardians. And I don't know, I had this thought recently, last time I was on the ocean when I was in Scotland, and I thought, mermaids were probably onto something causing all those shipwrecks. And, trying to put the fear into the heart of man, because when a lot of those stories were really being populated and mermaids were being depicted on maps, and those were kind of like critical turning points in history. And it actually kind of marked the beginning of a lot of mass destruction of the oceans and a lot of pollution of the oceans. And so I kind of had that thought. I was like, maybe mermaids were just trying to like prevent what ended up being more or less inevitable. But they were trying to prevent the destruction of their habitat by basically just keeping anyone from being successful in their sailing. But because people have lived peacefully with mermaids for hundreds of years.
Have we?
What?
Have we though?
Oh
It
yeah,
is
I mean, I have a story in my book, and it was a beautiful woman in New Zealand who sent me like a story from her Aboriginal tribe, right? And basically it was like their relationship with mermaids was that they were essentially born of the mermaids during a dream. And in order to maintain that harmony, they continue to leave offerings for the mermaids and worked in harmony with them. So, there are harmonious relationships that can be cultivated, but by and large, like I feel like mermaids get like a glowing, like people aren't afraid of them, and they should be. I think they're quite vicious, and they will they will strike whenever necessary.
All right, let's
Still
get to
at it.
Jenny's. Let's get to Jenny's question. Varla, have you heard about the Alaskan mermaids? They are supposed to be nasty and cannibalistic.
Yes, actually, I have, and those are some of the stories that are pretty frightening. There's quite a few like kind of Arctic Circle area creatures that live in those really cold waters, and they're aggressive, they're hungry, and they really don't want you in the water, and for good reason, right? I mean, you're in the way, or you're prey, right? One way or the other. But yeah, and there's actually a few Norse, just continuing along in the Arctic Circle. There are some Norwegian mermaid stories that are pretty brutal. And actually, the most famous story of them all, The Little Mermaid, is from Denmark, and that's actually a really brutal story that has been, it's been made to be this pleasant, self-sacrificing young woman for the love of a prince, but really in reality it's a very brutal story about giving up your supernatural abilities in order to join the mortals. And it has its origins in the Selkie, sort of the Selkie legends. And the Selkies are they're the shape-shifting seal creatures, usually female, and they can take their coats off, and they can live as, again, beautiful women on dry land, and they can marry, and they can have children. But if this hidden coat is ever discovered by their lover, they basically have to immediately go back to the sea and shapeshift back into, put the coat back on, and shapeshift back into a Selkie. And there's, incredible mournful stories about Selkies having to leave their children behind, and just looking back at them from the sea, looking back onto the shore at their families with these, big eyes. And actually, I found a Selkie story in Aleister Crowley's The Equinox when I was working on my mermaid book, and that was like just such a fun and cool score, because I mean, that's just he's associated with magic, but he's not necessarily associated with folklore. And there's a story in one of the editions of the one of the journals of the Equinox that is a Selkie story, and it's about going out to this island off the coast of Ireland and seeing these creatures that look like shapeshifters. So yeah, another Varla sidebar there. But whenever you can drop Aleister Crowley into the same conversation as a shape-shifting Selkie, you got to do it. You just got to seize that opportunity.
You always got to take that chance. Always got to take that chance. Varla Ventura is our guest tonight. It's amazing, though. Like, I didn't know that there were these cannibalistic mermaids up in Alaska. I mean, that water is rough and dangerous.
Yeah.
That's at the of times, but it just trips me out about Alaska. Like everything in Alaska wants to kill you. What's in the ocean water, what's in the forest. I mean, you got the giant Kodiak bears or Sasquatch. You got the Alaskan Triangle where people just vanish. Grizzly bears ripping people's heads off. Mountain lions the size of saber-toothed tigers. I mean, it's ridiculous how everything is bigger up there. I mean, the Alaskan moose is like double the size of the moose we get around here. They get up to
Yeah.
like 2,200 pounds. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I've seen images of those moose. They're super fauna.
Yeah. My goodness. My goodness. I mean, I know Vancouver has always had, a reputation about mermaids being seen. That goes back to the explorer George Vancouver. And, at Stanley Park, they have a statue of a mermaid that sits on a rock kind of overlooking the harbor. And it really is beautiful. But I mean, there were stories that there used to be, these mermaids that swam between the islands on the inside of the islands, before heading out into the ocean. So, I mean, I find that quite interesting that we should be able to see something like that, and whether or not they are still coming to the area. I mean, I don't know. I mean, when's the last time a
I
mermaid
know.
was?
Well, I mean, I would say like in my like personal knowledge, when I was working on that book, which was, it's been out for about 10 years now. So there were quite a few sightings, including a couple that people sent in to me. And those were, around that time. Every once in a while, you'll read a story. The problem is it's very hard to find an authentic story about mermaids, kind of for the reason that I mentioned before. It's like, one thing, people don't want to like admit that they believe in them because they think they're like these things of fairy tales. And then, which they are, but in a good way, right? A good creepy way. But then I think, if you're just searching the internet for a story like that, like if I'm like a fisherman who lives in like the Aran Islands and, this kind of like rustic and rough climate, am I going to be walking around saying like, hey, I saw a mermaid? Like maybe I'll tell that story at the pub, or maybe I'll tell that story to my wife or my family or whatever. But I'm not necessarily going to be like, oh, hey, I'm going to contact a journalist and have them put this on the internet. So I think there's probably like a few more stories like that. I've had a few people write to me with experiences, but most of those have been in like their experiences have been sometime in the last like 10 years or so. But a majority of those recorded stories are recording stories that were shared through oral history. And those were really kind of recorded more in like the beginning of the 20th century. So, I mean, I've actually wondered that though, Dave. It's like, are they, are they an endangered species? Because there's actually quite a few theories that the mermaids were thought to be witches, that the ability to shapeshift, especially in places like Ireland and Scotland where you lived on the sea, that you could actually shapeshift and turn into a mermaid, but that you were a witch and you had that power. That was one of the powers you had if you were a sea witch, basically. And so they were persecuted. And I just got a sidebar for one quick moment, another Varla sidebar. But one
Sure.
of the most remarkable places that I went to in all of my my entire trip when I was in Scotland, at the base of the Edinburgh Castle, there's a plaque. And the plaque is kind of small, and it's on the corner of this at this corner of this building, and it's just this little brass plaque, and I'll probably get a little bit choked up, but as I saw it, and I actually just like burst into tears because it represented, it acknowledged the hundreds of, actually thousands of women and men who were tried and hung in that very spot right at the base of the castle in that big public square for witchcraft, which of course is not a crime. And so they were, I'm just bringing that up because, you know, during the witch craze, anything that was, you know, knowledge outside of the church was considered to be evil. And that included an understanding of the supernatural and understanding of the sea and the ways of the sea. So there is a theory that during that witch craze, that the mermaids were also persecuted and killed. And so there are fewer mermaids now post 1600s than there were prior to that because of that very reason, that very few escaped that persecution. And I actually, when I read that theory, which was a number of years ago, I was reading in a book, and I read that theory, and it made a lot of sense to me, because I've often wondered why, of all the cryptids, the sightings have gone down so much with mermaids. And you know, what I know of how we have historically treated witches, it made a lot of sense. So yeah, witchy sidebar.
I know, and I can see that, but should there not be a breeding population of these mermaids, or they, or
I mean,
are they
needs to be a hybrid? I mean, are you volunteering? Yeah.
Well, you know what? Sometimes you got to take.
No, you won't go in the ocean, so it's never going to work, Dave. It's not going to work.
I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, but if you kill all the women, who's going to have more mer babies? You know?
Yep.
Yes.
I can see that.
Horrifying population control. It's like the Handmaid's Tale for mermaids.
Well, you know what? We have under 2 minutes to go here.
On that note,
at the top of the hour, and say good night to you, the lovely Varla Ventura. What's your final word and say on mermaids?
Mermaids are real. Stop trying to suppress the part of you that thinks they aren't. Just embrace it, go with it, and yeah, think about it. It's totally possible. I do think mermaids are real. I do think that there are fewer mermaids than there ever were, and I think that you know, I think my theory stands that they were hunted. And honestly, I think that could also be true of many, many other cryptids. Werewolves, vampires are kind of in a world of their own. But true. Yeah, well, I guess I'll see everyone in Vegas.
Yes,
some people.
I know. Aren't we? You know, it's
you'll find out if I have a mermaid tail or not.
Well, we know Derek Galloway, our listener in our chat room, has a tail. So
yes.
You know,
oh, great. So that makes two of us.
Yes. And Derek, Varla wants to make sure you got the gin ready, you know, so that way you can share tale stories and kind of go from there. But Varla,
and Merle, we're going to the museum. Anyone who wants to go, we'll organize that. We'll go to the haunted museum.
Varla, I want to say a big thank you, because I meet a lot of people on this show, but you're one of the ones who is truly special to me and this show and our audience. And I am so excited to meet you at our second annual fan party in Las Vegas at the Golden Nugget, May 19th through 21st. And I know our audience members who will be going to that are pumped up about getting to meet you as well, because you're one of the special people around here. So thank you. And we will see you and meet you finally in a couple of weeks.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. VarlaVentura.net is her website. She'll be back next month. Coming up next, we're going to head to the swamp. Then Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio is going to be here. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Beauty. Love you, dear.
Love you. I can't wait to meet you in real life and just do all the fun things and meet all the lovely people.
Yes, it's going to be amazing. Absolutely amazing. And it's what?
It's like 2 weeks or something.
20
A
days.
little over 2 weeks. Yeah, 20 days.
Yeah, the countdown is on.
Gonna be great.
All right, my dear. We will let you go.
Well, thanks again for a lovely show and your lovely
Always.
guests or your lovely audience. I guess I'm the lovely guest, but you know.
You are the lovely guest. We'll see you, see you in 3 weeks. Take care, my dear.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. Varla Ventura, everybody. VarlaVentura.net. I will be right back for the next hour. Oh, I hate it when water goes down the wrong way. Hello, Pardieu. Danielle Diva, I saw you in. And, yeah. Who else came in? Jose Maguina, how are you, buddy? I meant to say gingivitis. Oh, that's a good one. Kevin WIPF, how are you? Area 51, good to have you back, buddy. Shaq, nice to see you. All right. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Dave's beard is back. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you to CS, Mike, Pam, My Flock, Simon, Deb, Simon again, Dry Toast, and Carlito for the super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Xenium. Xenium is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is that time once again where we head to the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller is about to take us on another creepy journey.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. So I had gone to the indoor rock climbing place that I have gone to many times in my life with my friends. It was a great way to exercise and challenge ourselves while having a fun time. But on this particular night, our fun was about to be disrupted in the most unsettling way. As we arrived at the climbing gym, I noticed a man who seemed to be staring at me intently. He was tall with unkempt hair and a scraggly beard. He wore a tattered hoodie and jeans that looked like they hadn't been washed in quite some time, multiple weeks at the very least. I tried to shake off the feeling of discomfort, thinking maybe I had just been paranoid because I had drank a lot of soda that day and I was pretty hyped up on caffeine. But as we started climbing, the man continued to watch me. He stood in the corner of the gym, barely moving around at all, his eyes glued to me. I could feel his gaze on me as I climbed, and it made me feel absolutely uneasy. My friends didn't seem to notice anything was wrong, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off with this guy. As we took a break, the man approached us. He introduced himself as Mike and asked if we needed any help with our climbing. I declined, but he persisted, offering tips and advice. His voice was low and raspy, and every time he spoke, I could feel his breath on my neck. I tried to be polite, but his presence made me feel more than uncomfortable. We continued climbing, but I couldn't focus on anything but the man. He started making creepy comments like,
"You have strong arms, and I like the way you move."
My friend still didn't seem to notice anything, and I didn't want to ruin our night, so I did try to ignore him. But the man didn't stop there. As I was climbing, he started circling the base of the wall, muttering under his breath. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but his voice was deep and guttural. Suddenly, he lunged at me, grabbing my leg and pulling me down. I screamed and my friends rushed to my side, asking me what happened. The man just stood there with a sickening grin on his face. I could feel his eyes on me and I knew I had to get out of there. We quickly packed up our gear and left the gym, but as we were leaving, the man grabbed my arm and whispered in my ear, "I'll see you soon." I didn't sleep that night, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the man was still watching me. I was afraid to leave my house, terrified that he would be waiting for me. It wasn't until a few days later that I saw news reports about a man matching his description being arrested for assaulting a young woman at the same gym we had been at. The thought of what could have happened to me if my friends had not been there still haunts me to this day. And I don't think I can ever really go rock climbing again because of that sense of unease I get. The PTSD is just too real.
And that's why we love the Swamp Dweller around here, taking us on a spooky journey each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. If you like those stories and you want more, just head on over to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads, and hit subscribe. And yeah, you could go right there. Click on that. Get more of them. All right. From the swamp to the forest of Montana, looking for Bigfoot. Here's Super Duke for World Bigfoot Radio. Super Duke, the Cryptid Report with Super Duke. Super Duke, World Bigfoot Radio. We love it when you're here, my man. How you been doing?
Doing good. Having all kinds of fun today, finding stuff that I hadn't noticed before. And just to back up Varla there earlier, you know, the whole thing with mermaids are just manatees that are misidentified.
Sure.
Okay. You know, there's still mermaid reports coming in from Southeast Asia to this very day. They still keep seeing them over there. And yeah, they got dugongs over there. And we got, you know, the manatees in the U.S., and I know what they're like. I've actually been swimming with one in the Rainbow River. There's a mama and two babies going upriver, and I was dumb enough to jump off the pontoon boat and grab the tail of the baby and use it like a jet ski to drag me up the river for a ways, and it outpaced the boat we were on. And I started getting too far ahead of the boat, and of course then I remembered the Rainbow River also has alligators, so I let go of its tail and got back to the boat. But they feel like slimy leather, in case you ever wonder. The answer is slimy leather. Point I'm trying to make here is that mermaid reports came over with us from Europe. We had all kinds of mermaid stories over there. The Danes were the ones that invented the Little Mermaid story hundreds of years ago. There were never any manatees in Europe. So you can just drop the manatee BS.
True. I never bought that. I mean, you can't tell me that someone, even 400, 500, 600 years ago, 1,000 years ago, could tell the difference between a human and a manatee. I'm telling you right now, if I saw a manatee, I mean, they're cute in the ocean, they're cute, okay, but I wouldn't date one. I wouldn't jump in the water for one. You know what I'm saying?
They look cute, but they look nothing like a human. I mean, unless the sailor is dead, drunk, and blind, he's not going to mistake it for a human. So, you know, that's just the usual rational thinkers trying to come up with some excuse to explain it away because they don't like the fact that it might actually be real. And I know somebody that was actually involved with collecting cryptids for the government for a study about 30 years ago. And they told me unequivocally mermaids are real. The government has several of them in captivity.
That would be interesting. That would be very, very interesting to see. So
well, they got to see one of them, and they said it didn't look anything like the Little Mermaid. It was nothing like that description. So, yeah, pretty scary-looking critter, actually, from what they said.
My gosh. Well, what do you got for us on the cryptid side tonight? We only got you till the bottom of the hour here.
Well, I got a couple Bigfoot reports, and then I can talk about the face on Mars if you want to talk about that for a little while, because somebody did a show on that they released earlier today that's really good, and I sent you a link on MeWe so you can go check it out. You don't want to miss this one. But it filled in the blanks for me on some of the stuff I've been wondering about forever. So anyway, back to the Bigfoot stories that I had left off on last time. This is one from the grandfather of the witness, and she put it that in the year around the 1880s, quote, in the morning our parents gathered all the family to clean and fillet salmon from the catch. We had prepared the fish for smoking. We left the entrails for the animals and birds to eat. After a day of work, we packed up the fillets and started on the walk back to the fire area. I left my knife on the bank, and I returned to fetch it. As I approached the cleaning area, I saw this big hairy man squatting down and eating the fish entrails. When he saw me, he stood and roared, perhaps to scare me. He did not seem to want to share his meal. I ran back and told my mother, and she said I should never venture out alone. We returned in an hour, but the huge pile of entrails was gone. There was more entrails left there than a bunch of raccoons or other scavengers could have taken that fast. And another story from the grandfather has it, quote, we would see the quiet ones, they call them, once in a while, mostly in the evenings, just after the sun went down, sometimes in the very early morning. They knew we were there, but would not harm us. They would go out in darkness, so they would not have to be seen by people. They would sometimes come near the fire at night, but stay out, just out of the light of the fire's range. Your nose would tell you that they were near, as they smelled like rotted meat. And yeah, I've smelled one that smelled like that before. My father once said he saw two big creatures standing on opposite sides of a small clearing, yelling and throwing sticks at each other. He thinks they are fighting for the space or perhaps for food or something else. He saw them many times, but was never really afraid of them. They would sometimes take his food at night, but they would never hurt people. She also says, when my brother was a baby, our mother left him in a hammock when she went for water. When she came back, a creature was very near the baby, smelling him, but it did not touch him. It knew it was a harmless baby. It was just curious.
Oh, weird.
It frightened our mother, but the creature went up the hill as soon as she approached. And this comes up a lot. They're just, really curious and interested in human children. They'll sit there and watch kids play all day long. I don't know. Maybe it's similar to watching their kids play all day long, and it's amusing. And our kids are just smaller versions of their kids, so they're cuter. Anyway, she says, I was amazed to read the Tolowa stories, in particular the bit about the yelling and throwing sticks at one another. That was a behavior unknown to me at the time. Research has very few accounts where many have been observed quarreling and fighting among themselves. This one seemingly cited behavior that spoke to the issue of competition between two Sasquatch. And now I'm going to give you guys a story that I know about where a native was out hunting, and he heard weird commotion going on, and he went and snuck up to investigate. And since they were making so much racket, they didn't hear him sneaking up. And he came up to this little ridge on the edge of a clearing, and when he looked down in the clearing, there were two Sasquatch there having an argument. And apparently, one of them was about 7.5, 8 feet tall, and the other one was over 9 feet tall. And they had a dead deer there that they must have been arguing over. And abruptly, the bigger one slammed the little one and just knocked him flat. And then the little one got up and slammed the big one and knocked him flat. Then the big one got up, grabbed the deer, slammed the little one with it, knocked him cold. Actually, the description was he did a complete flip and landed on his face. The big one threw the deer over his shoulder and ran off with it. And within only a few seconds, the little one came to his senses, jumped up, and chased him off into the woods. So, yes, they have been observed fighting over things. But using a full-size deer for a club tells you how big this critter is.
Oh, my God.
Another reported skirmish occurred in...
I'm sorry, but could you imagine seeing that with your own eyes? Get the hell out of here, kid. Screw you.
Yeah.
Whack with a deer. Right across the side of the head.
I know. He made it sound like he probably got brown springs in his pants right about then, and he was happy that he could make his way back to camp, and they hadn't apparently seen him. But that was the last thing he expected to see. And the way he described it, it was just like they were both so powerful. When the big one smacked the little one, he just went right down. He knocked him literally off his feet. And the littler one got up and did the same thing to him. So again, how ridiculously powerful these creatures are. And use a full-size deer for a club. I mean, my God. Yeah, that would be pretty hilarious and scary. Okay, so another reported skirmish occurred in Nighthawk, Okanagan County, Washington State. After lengthy communication with the informant, she wrote it up this way. George Brosseau claimed his grandfather Elliot told him about an encounter with two Sasquatch due west of Nighthawk, what is now off. Hold on. I'm going to page down here a little bit. Nope. Can't read that one. Sorry, folks. Going to have to skip ahead on that one. Gruesome details. The Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara Nation. To sum up the last one that I couldn't really read on air, it's similar to the other story I just said, but kind of like more gruesome. The Fort Berthold Indian Reservation, located in western North Dakota in the counties of McKenzie, Montreal, McLean, Mercer, and Dunn, has in times past a very long history of recorded sightings. None of the accounts were aggressive or horribly alarming, and there were no physical attacks. A Mr. Travis Rodenheiser reported there were a couple of sightings on the Fort Berthold Reserve, 23 miles north of where he lives in North Dakota, in 2004 and 2005. There were several reports starting around February 22nd, according to Glenda Embry, who is in charge of tribal public affairs for the Fort Berthold Reservation, describing one of the several incidents. She said, a local resident said the children were playing outside in the trailer court. They were the ones to see the Sasquatch. They began screaming, of course, which scared the Sasquatch back into the trees. Embry said the children described it as, quote, huge, unquote, and that it pushed through those trees like they were mere shrubs. It moved very fast. On February 24th, two other men from Fort Berthold Reservation were driving on Highway 22 when they saw a Bigfoot-type creature walking up on the road. Then it went into the roadside ditch and continued walking down there. Another vehicle on the opposite side of the road also stopped when it saw the creature, but the Bigfoot, realizing it was being observed, quickly headed toward the tree line. They found footprints that showed it had almost 5-foot-long strides. Dennis Fox Jr. of the Fort Berthold Tribes Independence Program tried to take pictures of the tracks, but the snow they had there had begun to melt by the time he got there. However, Phyllis Lincoln remembered seeing a Bigfoot in the same general area of the Fort Berthold Reservation when she was 17 years old. And she says, I can remember it like it was yesterday. It was scary. She and her 3 sisters were driving their dad's truck on the way home late from a movie. Quote, when he pulled over to the side of the road, the thing sat up. And when it sat up, it stood up. It was really tall, Lincoln said. It must have been resting or lying in the ditch next to the road. We thought, what the heck was that? We turned to look, and then it stood up. It was about 8 feet tall. It didn't look at us or anything, but I remember the color of it was kind of mouse-colored, like grayish. It had real long hair. It took 1, 2, 3 steps, and it cleared a fence, like the fence was about 3 feet high, Lincoln said. When they returned home, their grandfather told me that the Bigfoot had been in the area for years, but had never hurt anyone. And now we go to Norway House, Manitoba Cree Nation. Manitoba's sighting in 2005 generated an enormous amount of frenzied media play. On April 16 of that year, First Nation man by the name of Bobby Clark from the Norway House Cree Nation Reserve at Mission Island, Manitoba, was operating a cable ferry that carried traffic across the Nelson River. He testified that he saw the creature at quite a distance. It was the same Sasquatch-like creature that his people referred to as the Elder Beings or Elder Brothers. He ran and grabbed his camera and took a fair amount of footage, but the distance was just too great to get any kind of real detail. As with most of us who have had sightings, Clark took a fair amount of criticism, the usual Bigfoot cacophony, but I personally believe deeply in his story. There was no way he could have anticipated what was to have occurred that morning. In fact, on the video, he outlines how he had to run to get his camera to record the event. Well, that doesn't sound like a man who knew there was going to be a sighting that morning. But the media, as usual, had a field day. The disbelieving press had done much to discredit any meaningful progress where witness information is concerned. It's no wonder people are reticent when it comes to reporting what they know and what they've been witness to. Now, in the later days of 2011, there was a discussion on Dmitry Bayanov's private discussion list, and of course he is the famed and recently deceased Russian hominologist, Bigfoot researcher. His discussion was concerning fire usage by these people. Use of fire and questions and doubts that are inherent in such a session of brainstorming proved interesting. For her part, she expressed concerns on how the Sasquatch survived the deep snows of winter in such regions as Alaska, the Yukon, Northwest Territories, and even Alberta, some of the really brutal cold winter places. And of course, we have enough reason to believe that they are going underground in these places. But we also are certain that they know how to use fire. They just usually don't use it because it gives away their position. Captive Indian women didn't eat raw game or fish, and they were somehow feeding them. It was either preserved by smoking, sun-drying, or salting methods, or directly placed over an open pit or adobe ovens, which requires, again, fire. Who taught the secrets of starting a fire? The Seraphine Long story not only mentions fire, but she was clear that her captivity was in a cave. Most volcanic mountains are said to be mined with tunnels and underground rooms that are warmer than above air in the winter. If true, no wonder volcanic regions have centuries of Bigfoot sightings. While the other thing she doesn't mention here is there's lava caves there. And when you're underground, you've got a steady temperature in the 40s at the very minimum. So it's not anywhere near as cold as it could be on the surface, or it's 20, 30, 80 below, whatever. She also says there's a report that lists the Sasquatch removing nuisance bats from the ceilings of the caves by smoking them out, which is, again, of course, a use of fire. Perhaps the use is limited to winter months, and of course we just don't have enough data to state absolutes with what first-hand accounts we have concerning fire usage, but they have been pretty much ignored. There are also, of course, oxen, yak, foxes, caribou, elk, moose, polar bears that survive winters in these regions quite well. They're robust in their own way as the Sasquatch, but they're not primates. They're quadrupeds with natural leg and foot adaptations to withstand extreme temperatures. Primates are just not physically built to withstand sub-zero temperatures, which is why finding footprints left by Sasquatch traversing miles and miles of deep snow mystifies her. How is this accomplished without some manner of foot protection? Why don't their feet and ankles freeze? Recent work with the Neanderthal genome may have the answer. An analysis of DNA obtained from Neanderthal remains has revealed key differences from modern humans that suggest their bodies produced excess heat. And this could, of course, perhaps explain how cold climates might not provide much of a boundary to Sasquatch beings living there. And how much time we got left here?
We got about 90 seconds.
Okay, I don't quite have time to go through that one, so I guess we'll have to kind of stop it there tonight. But just to let everybody know, you should watch the episode of the Y-Files that came out tonight. He's got a really great channel. It's got 2 million subs on it. And it's this guy that reads the story. Somebody will tell him, here's a topic. Can you please do a breakdown on it? And that'll be the next show. And he's actually the sidekick to the main host on the show, which is a goldfish with a tinfoil hat on top of his bowl named Hecklefish that gives his dumb human a hard time every time he says something stupid. But he went into the face on Mars, and this guy did a really great breakdown on it and connected some dots that everybody else has missed and showed lots of interesting pictures, like a picture of their research area on Devon Island where they do, testing for gear for the moon and Mars and stuff like that. And then he showed a picture supposedly of Mars and said, hey, look at that rock in the background. That looks like a mouse. They said, no, that's a rock. It just happens to look like a mouse. Well, it happens to look exactly like a lemming that lives on Devon Island.
Super Duke, where can people find World Bigfoot Radio?
Well, Bigfoot Radio is available on all the better channels and platforms, and also including YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, and you can find my support groups, Montana Bigfoot Project for the hardcore field researchers on Facebook, and World Bigfoot Central on MeWe.
Love it, my man. Thank you so much for another great report. Really do appreciate it, my man. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, it's the Dave 101. What the hell does Logan Paul, influencer, wrestler, boxer, have to do with UFOs? We'll get into it next on the Mighty SOR. Stay tuned. There you go, Super Dookie Poo.
All over the map on that one. Yeah, one of the things that really impressed me is how he connected up where they had originally gotten the picture of the face on Mars in the summer of '76. And then, of course, shortly after that, it got way too popular. And they started going, oh, it's just a trick of light and shadow. Look, we got another picture that shows that it's a trick of light and shadow. And they never showed anyone the picture.
Beauty.
Where's the picture that shows it's a trick of light and shadow? So it was, what was it? I got my little notes here. It was the Mars Observer in '93. They were going to send that one up, and everybody, Richard C. Hoagland was all over it. So he had the public and Art Bell on his side, and they're going, hey, we want to see some more pictures of Cydonia. We want to see pictures of this face on Mars. And they're like, no, we're not planning on photographing that. And they literally browbeat him into putting a camera on the damn thing so they could potentially get a picture of it. They still didn't say they were going to take a picture of it, but they did put a camera on it of the same crappy low quality as the one they had sent there 20 years earlier, mysteriously enough. And then about 3 days before it was supposed to go into orbit, they had a public debate between Hoagland and some goon from NASA about the face on Mars and why aren't you willing to take pictures of it? And it went brutally the wrong way for NASA because everybody totally took Richard's side. Within 5 minutes after that conference, they got a report from NASA that the probe had failed and they couldn't get any feed from it.
Of course not.
Of course. And then Hoagland started getting reports from inside NASA that they'd gotten all kinds of pictures of the face on Mars in excruciating detail. Well, at that point, I come into the picture because they sent those pictures from Houston to D.C., and in the process of going through the mail, it broke open. And that was at the Egan Bulk Mail Center in Minnesota in the winter of '94-'95. And guess who was working in rewrap? That's right, me. I got to see it. I had paged through it. I saw all 80 or so pages of it, of that face in excruciating detail. Passes above it, passes across the middle of it, passes below it from every angle. And it is absolutely a mile-long face. It has eyebrows, it's got eyes, it's got pupils, it's got eyelashes, it's got teeth, it's got lips, it's got nostrils. And then they put out a BS picture of it that Hoagland and Art Bell both debunked and said that looks like something my cat scratched up in his cat box. So to this day, their fake picture is called the cat box picture. And a photo expert took that picture and tried to see how they had done it. And sure enough, after enough work on it, they had used 14 different Photoshop programs to take the original and make it into that illegible piece of crap that they tried to pass off on the public as the actual picture. The moral of this story, kids, is NASA lies all the time. Don't believe anything they tell you. And with that, I'm going to go. Love you guys. I'll see you next Tuesday.
Super Duke getting fired up there, then dropping a see you next Tuesday. That's always nice. But I guess he will technically see us next Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know it's Thursday today, but he won't be on until Tuesday. I don't think he even planned for that one. Brokish on Twitch, how you doing, man? All right, we got about 30-some seconds here. Thank you again, Derek, for your second super chat of the night. Thank you for the hat trick, Simon in Australia. Hi, CS. Thank you for your super chat, along with Mike, Pam H, Carlito, Dry Toast, Deb, and My Flock. Very much appreciate the love, guys. Very much appreciate the love. The Michael Leger, could you email me and give me a update on our little project, if you don't mind? Here we go, everyone. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is time once again where I yell at each and every one of you to get off my lawn. It's Dave 101.
It's time for Dave 101.
Ufology has taken quite a few strange turns over the last number of years, whether it's from the To the Stars Academy to all of these different groups like Enigma Labs, Galileo Project, UAPX, the SCU, and many more that are jumping in all over the place to get in the game. But sometimes strange voices may yield some power. Look, we have seen people like Tucker Carlson when he was on Fox, or Joe Rogan more recently, really take off on the UFO subject, trying to bring credence and credibility to this subject and bring it more mainstream. Often they are wondering why more people are not talking about UFOs and the situation that we may not be alone in the universe, considering it is one of the largest stories that will affect every human on this planet, let alone every animal and every facet of what we do. We don't know what those results will be. However, we may know soon enough. Now, movie director James Fox was recently on Joe Rogan. And one of the interesting things that he stated was that in a recent interview he did with Logan Paul, influencer, boxing promoter, boxer, even WWE wrestler, Logan Paul has a very large podcast called Impulsive. That's where he and his buddies sit around and they shoot the breeze on any of the big topics of the day. They have interviewed people like Fox. They've interviewed people like Stephen Greer and many others involved with the UFO field. Not too many, though. They haven't really done more than dip their pinky toe within the UFO pool. But nonetheless, they have talked about it. Paul has literally millions upon millions of followers, subscribers. He is a top influencer indeed. So why does he have anything to do with ufology? Why are we talking about Logan Paul today? Well, according to James Fox in his most recent interview with Joe Rogan, that Logan Paul has stolen one of the most compelling UFO videos ever recorded. So much so that Fox went on to say it's one of the most compelling videos and the best evidence out there. Now, how many times have we heard that? We've heard it from Lou Elizondo. We've heard it from Chris Mellon. We've heard it from other UFO dignitaries. But apparently, Logan Paul, who really isn't supposed to have a copy, made sure that he did get one secretly. So here we have Logan Paul, who has nothing to do with UFOs and fully in control of a major UFO video. Question is, will he release it? Now, there is some suspect on how he got the video. Apparently, he was talking to a gentleman who had it and wasn't supposed to record it, but secretly did during an interview while they were watching it. He offered up to $100,000 for the video, but didn't pay for it. He used a sneaky camera in order to get a hold of it. Chilling. Creepy in a way. But nonetheless, the gentleman who didn't want to sell him the video must be very upset that he turned down $100,000 only for Paul to secretly record the video that was being played on the TV. So what should Logan Paul actually do with this video? Because if he releases it, he's probably going to have a lawsuit, a big one indeed, which I don't know his financial situation by looking at what he does and the brands that he promotes. I'm pretty sure he's probably worth anywhere between $20 and $80 million, if not more. So he could probably afford it. But will he release the video? Look, we have been waiting for these videos or these so-called types of videos to come out. You know, the videos of the century, the one that's going to blow open the doors of ufology. If this video is that good, we all need to challenge, and I personally challenge, little pipsqueak of me, challenging the big dog Logan Paul to release the video. Release the video to the public. If you care about ufology, if you care to know what's going on, release the video. You have a copy of it. You can be the man of the hour in ufology, but it better be good. Come on, Mr. Impulsive. You're the man who is doing a lot of really cool things right now. Whether it's WrestleMania, whether it's your new drink that you are hawking around the world. All right? Whatever you are doing, you are a brand, you are an influencer, you have the power to do it. Release the video. And by reports that I'm seeing right now, if he's worth $250 million, if not more, not 20 to 80, like I said, because I really don't follow the guy much. But if he's worth $250 million, take the shot. Release it. If you are ballsy enough to steal the video from a guy you just offered him $100,000 for it, and he turned it down, and you are brazen enough to steal that video anyhow, so you got a copy, you're brazen enough to release it to the public. The amount of hits you're going to get is going to be in the multi-millions, if not hundreds of millions. People are going to want to see it. Your name alone will bring that people in, will bring those people in. Bring in people who may not even be wondering about this subject, but have a mild curiosity. If that video is so darn good, take the chance. Build some advertising around it. You're good with that. But release the video. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I really don't. I mean, it would be a shame for all the people in ufology who have worked really, really hard over the last few decades to all of a sudden see some influencer come into ufology and blow it wide open if the video is that good. Now, I don't know what's on the video. The only thing that I know is this. The video is apparently the most compelling UFO video ever recorded. What does that mean? I have no idea. Will we try and get Logan Paul on our show to talk about it? Sure, we could try it. Will he give us the time of day? Probably not. But it never hurts to try. And who knows? If that deal is put out there, why hold on to it? Why brag about it? Does he want people to know that he has copies of it? Because we're only hearing about this publicly now. Thank you to James Fox for putting that out there on Joe Rogan. But the good part about it is, between Rogan and others, they may have the influence to do that. They may have the evidence and the style and the moxie and the friendship, I don't know, to convince him to let it out to the public. Now, if it was that he was not supposed to have the video, and the government may get mine, maybe they'll go into his computer and erase it. Maybe. Maybe those pesky NSA, NRO, CIA guys who we always say, welcome to our show. If you're listening in, give us a call sometime. You already know the number. We don't need to give it to you. Maybe they'll go into his computer and erase the video. I'm sure, though, knowing Logan's smartness for marketing, he probably already made copies, which he should. But here's the thing. The public, if that video is out there, deserves to see it. Logan Paul is a public figure. Logan Paul is someone who will do anything to get his name out there. The biggest way he could get his name out here next is by making that video public. There's going to be people in ufology who are going to break it on down, call it something fake, probably be called fake from the Pentagon. Who cares? Release the video. We need to see that video as the public. If you want to play in the UFO game and you want to get involved, whether you've agreed to or not, this is how you do it. All right. Look, the reason why so many UFO people want to go on Joe Rogan, they want to go on Logan Paul, is because of the clicks. The clicks make these movies sell, these documentaries sell, the stories make high ratings. Okay, there's a reason why Tucker Carlson was always on Fox News talking UFOs, because he saw the ratings spike. Okay, he saw the ratings spike when he talked UFOs, and that is always great for advertising. That's why when he hooks on somewhere else, he'll still talk UFOs. If Logan Paul really wants the clicks, he'll release the video if he cares about it. But the reason why ufology is all geeked up to talk about this with these big influencer names and podcasters is because they can do a show like ours. They may hit 100,000, 200,000 people who will listen to them, or they could go on Joe Rogan where 100 million plus are going to be tuned on in, or Logan Paul where 50 to 100 million plus will be tuned on in. That's a lot of exposure in the name of promoting your product or what you believe. So it's smart that anybody who has this would actually go on one of these programs. What's crappy about it was that Paul, out of everything that he's done, he and his crew actually allegedly stole this video. But he has a choice. He can button up, pretend like he doesn't have it, even though really good people like James Fox know the truth. Or he could say, yeah, I got the video, but no, I'm not going to show it because his lawyers probably told him not to. Or he'll come out and say, yeah, I erased it. We made a mistake and I shouldn't have done that. And we've erased the video, which they never really do. Or he could come out and say, hey, world, look what we got, and benefit off the millions upon millions of clicks, which is going to pay him a lot of money. Now, we are all basing this on the words of movie director James Fox. I know people very close to James who say he is a straight up guy, not a BS kind of guy, takes this story and this topic extremely seriously. He's not the kind of guy who is going to try and BS his way to make a name for himself. He lets his movies do the talking, and frankly, he does an amazing job at what he does. He's probably one of the most professional directors in the field of ufology that we have, and he continues to uncover amazing stories that need to be told. I don't think James Fox is fibbing on this one. I really don't. There's no need for him to actually do that. If it's the truth, which I believe it is, then the onus now is on Logan Paul. So, Logan, here's your challenge from all of us at Spaced Out Radio. Release the video. Let us see the greatest video that will blow our minds. There's a lot of people who deserve it, and that's the UFO community. The challenge has been made. It's up to you to accept. And that is your Dave 101.
What time is it?
It's time for Shirky Poo's news!
All right, let's get right to the news. Here's a weird one we're going to start off with right off the bat. Saucy Samantha Peer, you may not know her name. Well, let's tell you about this young lady. She was recently forced to quit her job as a school teacher. Why? Well, she decided it would be a good idea to enact her second career in the office of her first career, which was making pornographic videos in her classroom that became public. But now she says she's turning over a new leaf. The 25-year-old ex-educator who used the nom de porn Chloe Carter and taught science at Thunderbolt Middle School in Lake Havasu City, Arizona, is now ditching her OnlyFans page. She wrote on Fansly, "Hi all. Wanted to let you know I'm starting a new chapter in my life and will be closing this subscription page soon. Thank you for the fun times." One fan replied, "I wish you the best on your next adventure." Peer must have had a change of heart because just last month, she told her subscribers her goal was to be the average MILF next door. The scandal made a bombshell headlines around the planet and sent married Peer spiraling. Only a handful of loyal fans helped her through her darkest of hours when she got fired as a teacher. Peer also lambasted snitches who reported her clandestine activities and amorous antics. "I'd gone into my classroom on a Saturday night and recorded 2 videos of myself using a sex toy in my classroom. My husband was never involved in either video," she said. A community member had reported my website to the police and said that I had pictures of myself in the classroom. The police told the community member to tell the school because I hadn't broken any laws. I met with the superintendent last Friday, and she informed me that the school board would be meeting on Halloween to decide if I would be sacked, be under investigation, or be allowed to return to my classroom. Well, Peer said her students forgave her. The parents, not so much. The student superintendent told me that if I resigned before the meeting, that the claims wouldn't be made public. So I chose to resign because I was ashamed of myself, and I knew I deserved those consequences. That same month, the online carnal capers ended. Peer confessed that she'd had so much sex since her secret was revealed. But in her farewell, Peer couldn't seem to help herself and flashed her red thong. She wrote, "Just a little update on my everyday life and how it looks." Well, isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? You know, this is what's wrong with teachers. She saw nothing wrong with making porn in her classroom just because it was after hours. Maybe I'm a little too old school, but that just doesn't fly. An Oregon man let it rain, and people are still looking for the cash he splashed around. Oregon State Police saw the man and basically saw him throw about $200,000 in cash out of a car on an interstate in Eugene, Oregon. Though people were still searching for money, police said it's all been accounted for. Oregon State Police Lieutenant Jim Andrews said anyone who stopped at the scene did a pretty good job of cleaning it all up. Andrews said the money belonged to 38-year-old Colin Davis McCarthy and his family. Andrews said McCarthy took the money out of a shared family account and then chucked it out the window. McCarthy is not facing any charges, but the family can't recover the money because it was a shared account, so he had legal access to it. Police said McCarthy told him he did it because he was doing well and wanted to share his money with others, except his family. The family said the money was very much needed, although they acknowledge it's unlikely anyone will return the discarded cash. A man who allegedly stole hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of crab by posing as a grocery store employee has been nabbed by police. This was not a one-time thing. This was an ongoing conspiracy that involves multi-states and multiple jurisdictions and a lot of money, alleged Robert Hammer, the special agent in charge of overseeing the Homeland Security investigations in the Pacific Northwest. Police allege David Subil stole and transported more than $700,000 worth of king and snow crab. Yeah. Oh, can you imagine the meals you'd get out of that? Police say Subil made several pickups of crabs from North Star Cold Storage in Stanwood while pretending to be a Safeway employee. And finally, the American government is tracking more than 650 potential sightings of so-called unidentified aerial phenomena. This is what we got out of Senator Gillibrand's hearing. Recent hearings chaired by the Democratic senator are the latest held by Congress over the past year on UFOs. Lawmakers pressure the Pentagon to solve the unexplained sightings. Sean Kirkpatrick said, there is no evidence of UFOs. Of course there's not. They don't exist because we're not really a show that deals with them. We wouldn't know. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter, hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night. Good show, everyone. You did well tonight. All of you did well. No swearing. No swearing in the chat room, please. Who's timing? Let me just see here. You're not timed out. I don't think you have been timed out. Oh, there you got timed out. What was that, man? Yeah, just no swearing, please. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We're just trying really hard not to piss off the YouTube algorithms. That's what we're doing. That's the main reason. Hold on. Let me get this whole editing process started. No, I'm not singing. I'm not that good. I can do happy birthday, but I suck at the rest, Deb. Honestly, I do. Please don't force me to do that. Hi, Philip Baca. You bad language man. Hey. All right. The Michael Leger. I just got your emails. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. I'm excited. The Michael Leger. What video? What's it? I don't have the video. Oh, did they? Hold on. Now I gotta go on a Twitter hunt. Oh, this better not be the video. This is terrible. If it's honestly, if this is the video, it's terrible. I'll show it to you guys. Hold on. I hope this is not the video. Please don't be the video. Okay, this is apparently, thank you, Nicole. This is apparently a recreation of it. Hi, Yumi doll. How are you? I like that comment. It's a frisbee. It's a frisbee. Jacques Valet. It's your spinning salami. It's the big red dot on Jupiter. My God, if this is the video, or okay, Nicole's saying it's a recreation of it. But, oh my God, if this is it, if this is what Logan Paul was going to pay $100,000 for. Mrs. Donna Cantor, welcome to SOR chat. It's Uranus, Simon. It's Uranus. Oh my God. You know what? People who put out stuff like this really hate us. They really hate us. Oh, that thing is horrible. Okay, where's my Twitter here? Stop sharing here for a second. I'm going to see if I can find some other stuff on this. Okay, there's this one out here too. All right. The Disclosure Revolution with Osvaldo Franco. I'm going to play this one for you. This one's a little bit different. Let me just share. Okay, where's my StreamYard? All right. This one's terrible too. Honestly. Don't shoot the messenger, people. That's all I ask. Don't shoot the messenger. Bella Lugosi, how you doing, buddy? Susie B, nice to see you. Honestly, that's terrible. NSA guy got to Chuck. Get to Chuck. This is what you get to see now. What does that mean, Random Gee? It's for like 2 seconds. Can you type out a coherent sentence? Oh, that's terrible. Oh, Random Gee. Oh, this is horrible. I can't even watch this. That's terrible. Yes, it does look like blood cells under a microscope. Good call. Good call. Holy cow. What did I do here? That's just terrible. You know, if that is the video or alleged remake of this, okay? And we got people like Sean Kirkpatrick and others who are telling us we can't trust the public and their iPhone blurry videos. And then we see bullshit like that. Anybody else thinking the same thing I am? Oh my gosh, that's just terrible. Every disinformation agent and alphabet agent is laughing at us again over that one. If that's the video. I have some hope for James Fox. I have some hope. I could go into an entire rant and Dave 101 Part 2 over that video, over that remake. I am praying for James Fox's sake. Okay, I've never met the man, never talked to him, but I hear he's a nice guy. I am praying for his sake that is not the video. Because he is literally about to get destroyed in this. There you go, Random Gee. I just don't think that could be the video. I really don't.
I'm going to go. Love you guys. I'll see you next Tuesday.
All right, so where's the end of Super Duke here? It's right there. There it is. Thank you again, Simon. Honestly, that hurts me. It hurts me. That can't be the video. That cannot be the video. That was Super Duke on the recording there. That cannot be the video. Hey, Random Gee.
What up?
Dude, that cannot be the video.
No, it's not the video. That's the that is the misinformation, disinformation special. You hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so here's what we're gonna do. The guy that has the original VHS, and the reason that recreation has those crappy artifacts in it is they're actually trying to recreate the VHS, like the DMAG marks that you would have on a VHS in 92 or 93, whenever this was shot.
Uh-huh.
So this dude is the originator of the video, ironically lives in Rachel, Nevada, which you may have heard of before.
Yes.
And that's where the physical location of the original video is. So I just talked to NSA guy, and we're thinking of doing a road trip because he just pulled up his address for us. And knocking on his door, not in an official capacity, just as UFO weirdos, and rolling out there and just being like, "Yo, show us what's up. We'll tell you something if you show us what you got," kind of thing. See if it works, because that's definitely not the video. But it does sound like the video is being overhyped from what it is, but that's not it. That looks like a solar flare or something.
I appreciate that, Random Gee. I appreciate that.
It's definitely yeah, there's something else that remains to be seen there. And that so what you're getting there is that's the telephone game. That's 3 people from Fox's explanation of what he saw. And then it went down to a graphic artist from there. So that's clearly not the video. Because in the actual video, the part of the video, from my understanding, that makes it so compelling is not the craft itself, but it's the reaction and the peripheral, what's going on in the scene from the men in the car. That's what I understand. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to do what I can. But my understanding is the reaction and the lighting and the things that happen prior to seeing the craft is actually what makes the video compelling, not the craft itself. So we'll see. Or maybe I'll see, and then I'll just report back. I don't know. And then I'll tell Phil. I'll tell Phil what it is and have him draw in crayon.
Or you could get permission from the guy to Put it on Spaced Out Radio.
I don't think that's going to happen if you turn down $100,000, but
I don't.
maybe he'll trade. I probably have some things I could barter with him that would be worth his time. Be like, hey, help me out, help you out. Random guy could be very persuasive.
Well, when you throw on the underwear, you're going to be very persuasive. That's for sure.
I'm amazing.
You just show them them boxers.
I'm amazingly charming. You can ask Nicole. I'm joking. She probably hates me. I don't know. I'm just saying, throwing it out there.
Yeah, she's lighting up with starlight and little emojis the minute you came on the air. You two are sick.
Nice. It's disgusting, isn't it?
Absolutely disgusting.
It's everything that's wrong with America.
Just remember, if you two get married, Tim Senor is your flower girl.
We get married, we need to have a kid, but we're too old to have a kid. That kid would go straight to the league, though. I'm 6'3", and she's like 5'10". That kid's dunking on everybody.
Why would you want to play that game when you play a real sport?
Oh, man. Good times. Too old for kids. I don't want to be 70 with my kids in college. Anyways. Deb, RG is a legend in his own mind. Yes. Like
She'll
Uncle Rico. I am the epitome. If Al Bundy and Uncle Rico could merge into one entity, that would be me.
Yeah.
I still play varsity everything. That's right. In my 40s.
Oh, dropping an Uncle Rico in there. That's huge. That is huge, dropping an Uncle Rico in there.
I can punt, pass, and kick over the mountain.
Uh-huh.
Only hybrid kids.
Oh, my.
No, I'm super curious because I was hearing about this video from quite a bit earlier. So when you spoke on it, I'm like, oh, I need to drive out there. So I asked the NSA guy, he goes, I'm totally down. Now, we may not get anywhere, but bet your ass we'll do it. Be like, hey, we're random weirdos from the internet. We looked you up. You want to talk to us? Sure, that'll go for nice.
I don't know.
Or we could just go all espionage with it and tap them and get what we need. I mean, how does a dude have a video like that for this long and not suspect that somebody's coming for him, right? That tells you that either the video is not genuine at all, it's complete crap and he's not worried about it, or something's going on there. Like, if you had a legit UFO video that's as good as this supposedly is, and then you live in Rachel, Nevada, it's not like no one can snatch you in the middle of the night and no one would notice. There's like 12 people that live there. You can literally just be taken.
Hey, Obi Flet, how you doing, buddy?
Dogface, that's my guy right there with the
Big
Aussie
bad
money.
Simon.
Dogface Aussie money.
I appreciate you, Simon. Thank you. All the
do
way
more
from
than that.
Australia.
What do you guys want me to do? Chat, you tell me. I'm here for you. What need do you guys need me to fill for you?
Well, see, now you got to give him like 20 seconds to type something out. Michelle, I
You
thought
got cocaine in that thing?
Yeah, right. Michelle, I thought you left. You said you were going good night, and now here you are. Here you are responding. Look at Obi jumping in on the super chats now. Thank you, buddy.
Wait, I got a question. Is Michelle actually a real person or is that a bot?
I think she's real.
Oh. Okay. We're going to give you the benefit of the doubt, Michelle, allegedly.
Allegedly, Michelle.
Allegedly. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. She's the AM in our FM.
Got it.
Allegedly, Michelle.
AK Nayikas? Nayika? I don't know. Sure, there's some woo. I'm real.
Dude, I
Okay.
had some good. I had some really good hot sauce in my tacos today.
Is that like code for something?
No, I'm just really proud that. Dude, I love hot sauce over 100,000 Scoville units, man.
Yeah, I just had habanero. I eat habanero daily.
Yeah,
It's
so
good stuff.
So good for you.
Pants or shorts at your wedding? Oh no, we're not wearing pants or shorts. Bottoms are optional. Formal top though.
Key tie.
No, it's got to be a formal top, but bottom. We're just going nude bottom. So ties, bow ties, blouses, nude on from the waist down. That's the wedding.
Hold on. I was told that you would be wearing my boxers.
That's for the reception.
Okay.
Because the actual wedding ceremony itself, they're going to actually consummate the marriage, and everybody's going to join in.
Okay. All right. Whatever the bride wants, the bride gets. Yes, Michelle gets from a good friend of ours, Brian Stavely, Dose of Reality.
Oh, okay. All right, Michelle. I was just checking because I saw somebody look like somebody blocked you or something, so I didn't know if you were out of line or what's going on. Oh, wedding is off.
She uses the F word a lot.
So do I.
Bad girl.
But I mean it affectionately.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Nicole says wedding is off if the pants are off.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, save me money.
Come on, buddy. You have a nice closet full of khaki slacks.
Yeah. I haven't been able to wear them in months either. I have nothing to do with all this like bottled up khaki energy.
You're part of the khaki pants club.
Yeah. Just gonna go super chat Lou Elizondo and all the other guys that said they would never do TV shows that star on every TV show now. Fucking Magnum PI. Oh, good times. No, the F word is welcome here, or at least with me. I want to open pants.
No.
Just not. It just has to be before. You can't do it when the radio show is on. That's the rule.
Yeah, you can't do it during the radio show.
You have to wait 7 seconds from the start of any YouTube video, and then it can't be during anything that's, what do they call that? Not copyrighted. What's the word? When it's regulated by the FCC, I forget the word for it, but that stuff.
Yeah. Mike Arrington, how you doing? Yes. Random guy could pose as Jake from State Farm.
He sounds hideous, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I do stay up late calling people.
Mm-hmm.
90s. What is a boat shoe? I don't even know what boat shoes are.
Boat shoes? Gilligan.
Yeah. Love said boat shoes. I don't know what a boat shoe is.
How do you not know what boat shoes are?
I don't know. I'm guessing stupid. I haven't spent a lot of time on boats. I'm not rich. I grew up white trash.
You're an Air Force guy. You don't do water.
I grew up white trash. Everything I got was on my own stupidity and luck.
I got a pair of Crocs on right now. Skip to Melu.
What underwear are you wearing is the question.
What underwear am I wearing?
Not your own, I'll bet.
I am wearing Sasquatch boxers right now. No word of a lie.
Yeah. It's like I keep my nether regions pretty trim, so sometimes I buy underwear with built-in hair just to add a 70s effect to it. You ever do that?
No, I don't have to.
Oh, dude. Did you see the video I put on my main Twitter? You probably didn't. No one ever cares what I put up. Did we freeze? This sucks. Is Dave froze and I'm awake and alive? Do I have full control of the show now? That'd be pretty cool. Chat, you'll have to tell me what's going on. Did I just give Dave a seizure? Finally, I've been waiting for this moment my entire life. Welcome to SOR's Random Guy Takeover. We are in control now. Do not adjust your television. At this point, I would like you all to empty your bank accounts and super chat everything you have.
There we go.
Join me as we go along for a journey of sight and sound to the paranormal.
Can you hear me?
And now I'd like to welcome to the show Dave Scott. Thanks for coming on the show, Dave. How are you tonight?
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great. You can make some time for us. We have a great show for you. A bunch of questions, and the chat's really excited you're here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to start by getting your opinion on the Oilers and their current disposition in the playoffs.
Aren't they fantastic?
See, I could do a real show.
You totally could. I gotta disconnect my camera and reconnect it. See if that's the issue. I have no idea why it's blurry.
Yeah, it's been blurry. I messaged you earlier, but I didn't think you heard me. It's almost like it's in 720p. Did you check your settings on StreamYard and make sure it's in 1080 still?
Yeah, I'm on.
Oh, you got a Marquise avatar. That's hot.
I don't know why he put that on there.
That's cultural appropriation there, Dave.
Okay, let's try it. Hold on. No.
That's worse. That's definitely worse.
Worse. What the hell is going on here?
That's how women look at you in the bar before they take you home.
Oh, dude, that ain't getting me picked up at all.
Oh, you look better. Bum.
Hold on. Camera. Yeah, I'm on 1080p.
That's so weird, dude. It's definitely not 1080p coming through the stream. Is it something with the YouTube? No, because StreamYard usually sends it in native. I don't know, man.
I've noticed it on my YouTube for a while now.
Yeah, it's definitely fallen off.
Yeah. I don't get it.
Are you using PC, I assume?
Yeah.
Not Mac, right?
No.
Huh. Evidence to the opposite of that you in fact.
Well, I know the signal is going to be a little bit worse right now because I am uploading the files to transfer them, so that cuts into my streamline. But I mean, I don't know.
But it's more than like 50 and 10. You should be fine.
Yeah,
that's weird.
That's my connection is unstable.
Such a Canadian thing to have happen.
Right. Right. Just like having deer in my yard.
Gotta take the good with the bad.
Michelle thinks I look hot, blurry.
No, Michelle, he looks effing hot, if I know you right?
Exactly what she says. He looks
effing fantastic.
Look at that. Sexy as F to me. Thank you.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, that's because she only gets the shoulder up view.
She's putting the work in there. All right.
Oh my God. It's not you, SOR, it's him. Oh, that's all for you now. I thought I was getting some love there. I thought I was getting some love. Apparently not.
It is for you.
Yeah. She no attracted to me.
No one's attracted to me either. Welcome to my life. Nobody likes gingers. Only the mentally ill could ever be attracted to a ginger. I figure if Ed Sheeran gets laid, I got hope. The guy's a homely looking dude, but he's super talented, so
Dude is
balances
that
out.
boy can sing. Yeah, I can't figure out this camera thing.
Oh, look at Deb. Deb, stop being a hater and take out your yearbook picture from 1972. Change that avatar. That's my advice. She's been a little stinker lately.
I know. She's just a little saucy with you. A little saucy.
Even Love gets drunk and is nicer to me than Deb lately.
Hold on. The voice of reason, Peppa H is here. Stop with the sexy talk.
I can't help it. I just have a sexy voice. Face for radio for sure.
I totally have a face for radio. That's why I'm blurry up. Got a voice for print too.
You might close a magazine if you heard me talking.
I watched most of the first round of the NFL draft today. That's good stuff.
Yeah. Congratulations on the Panthers for drafting a 5'9" quarterback. I'm sure he'll make at least 8 games before he gets hurt. That was a mistake, but whatever.
I like the moxie the Houston Texans showed today.
In what capacity?
Well, they
just going double back to back.
They traded up to the second pick.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then they traded up to get to the third overall pick, so they had back-to-back picks there. They got a great quarterback, and then best defensive player in the draft.
Derek, we have peace, bro. You're my drinking partner in Vegas. We're going to go shot for shot, all right? We are homies. We are at peace. I don't have a big ego, Deb. Don't have a big ego. I self-deprecate more than you know. I just play the part when I'm on SOR.
Raiders got a real steal at 7.
Well, that explains. The Raiders have a bunch of criminals, so I look forward to seeing them in the crime blotter soon.
Hey, man. I like the Raiders.
I got a house in Vegas, and I still don't really care about the Raiders.
You were still living off of the Joe Montana, Steve Young era.
I'm a 49er guy.
Yeah. All right, Random Gee. Calling it tonight here, buddy, because I got to get up in the morning.
Oh, yeah, that whole adult thing. Got it.
Yeah, you got it. You got a 4-hour phone call to make.
Yep, that's true.
Tomorrow night, Random, are you going to join us for the round table? You and your sidekick?
If you're desperate enough.
Yeah.
All right, chat. I love you guys. Good talk.
She hasn't responded yet.
She's waiting to see what I said. She's probably going to let me decide. Do you want her?
What do you mean? I have more pull on her coming on the air than you do.
I don't know about that.
Oh, I do. You know why? You want to know why? I'm number 1.
You are number 1. She was very clear where I stand in her life. It's number 3. Because you're number 1, some other guy is number 2, and I'm number 3. But that's fine. I'm working my way up.
Grant Cameron's number 2.
That's a fact. That's an absolute fact. All right, guys. Appreciate you, Dave. I'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, much love, buddy. We'll talk
all right, bye, brother.
All right, and to the rest of you, thank you tonight to Carlito, Dry Toast, Simon, Deb, Simon, My Flock, Pam, Mike, CS, Derek, Simon, Simon, OB frickin' Flat. Love you guys for the super chats. Round table tomorrow night, guys. We'll have some fun. Come join us, and we'll see you then. Good night, everyone.
healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.